Seeing that she was not responding, Huang Yuli went to urge her. Second sister, how is that? You must give me an answer. Their gazes all turned to Bai Ruoqi. Being put onto the spot, she could only brace herself. What are you scheming? Huang Yuli lightly laughed. Second sister, look at what you are saying. Do you think I will allow for you to be driven out by others over such a small misunderstanding? When she heard this, Bai Ruoqi unexpectedly let out a breath of relief. She had been quite worried. In the unlikely case that Bai Ruoli taking out that much money, she would lose so much face when she was driven away. But now that Huang Yuli had stated her intentions, what could she do to her? Bai Ruoqi immediately regained her confidence and asked, then what do you wish to do? Let us make a bet. Make a bet. We are betting whether or not I possess enough finances to purchase that bottle of spirit-raising pills. Suspiciously, Bai Ruoqi questioned, how do we bet? Huang Yuli's tone was especially tender and soft. Very simple. Since this bottle of spirit-raising pills has reached such a price, the only two people willingly to purchase it would be you and me. Why don't we use it as our gambling stake? If I fail to provide enough silvers to purchase it, I will have lost this bet. The bottle of spirit-raising pills will thus belong to you, while I foot the bill. But if I am able to produce 130,000 silvers, then they will belong to me. As the silvers, second sister will provide for it. How does that sound? Blank, Bai Ruoqi's expression quickly changed. You dream well. This kind of gamble, I will not agree to it. Huang Yuli let out a loose smile. Second sister, what do you mean? Why don't you dare to take the gamble? Did you not have quite a lot of confidence when you reported me and possessed evidence? Since it is like this gamble is in your favor. You don't need to use a single silver and will be able to obtain a bottle of spirit-raising pills. This kind of fortuitous affair, you don't dare take it. When she spoke like that, Bai Ruoqi's heart wavered. What kind of situation was this? This cheap slut would not be able kind-hearted. But she could not possibly possess 100,000 silvers. Could she? The heritage Bai Liu Feng left behind was stolen long ago by Bai Liu Jing. Her meal money wasn't even stable. So how could she possibly have 100,000 silvers? Second sister, what do you choose? Huang Yuli asked impatiently. This, second sister, I am practically giving you the spirit-raising pills, yet you are still so hesitant. Could it be you have hidden demons inside? Or does it mean, you purposefully framed me? How could I frame you? Then why are you afraid to accept the gamble? Let everyone judge for themselves. If this isn't a guilty heart, then what is it? With a smile that wasn't a smile, Huang Yuli asked. Listening to the conversation, the crowd was stirred up once again. That's right. Why don't dare take the bet? If you really have evidence, it would be equal to obtaining a bottle of spirit-raising pills. If such a good thing were to happen to me, I would have already agreed. Yeah. Could it be that she holds a guilty heart? Purposely framing? Hey, it's highly likely. Who doesn't know South Sky region's most famous mercenary was Bai Liu Feng? He definitely has accumulated quite a lot of wealth. As his sole daughter, how would she not be able to afford a bottle of spirit-raising pills? That, I am not too sure. From the rumors, due to her young age, quite a lot of Wu Wei Manor properties have transferred ownership. Third Miss Bai has no share of anything. Otherwise, why would second Miss Bai be this certain over the fact she has no money? It's clear she has inside information. My lord, they dare to such a thing? Isn't that a bit too shameless? You can also listen on. Since the father is this shameless, it's no wonder that the daughter has no restraint. Even daring enough to frame her own cousin. When she is the one asking her to gamble, she does not dare. TSK. You really couldn't tell. To think I used believe that the second young Bai was beautiful and talented but still possessed a great heart. Turns out it was all a lie. Listening to the roasts and exposing discussions, Bai Ruoqi was both angry and worried, her face completely red. There was especially the case for the crown prince. Hearing those gossipers, his eyebrows knitted together and expression in deep thought. Being talked about from passerbys could be forgiven. But if the Crown Prince were to believe it and think she was a black-bellied and malicious female, then all hopes of marrying into the royal household would be greatly impacted. She could not allow them to continue to speak. Loudly, Bai Ruo-chi proclaimed, "Complete nonsense. When did I hold a guilty heart? The reason I did not take the gamble is because you are full of lies and trickery. It is only because you are with a mysterious man, allowing you access into the VIP room. Many saw this. Because you have seduced a powerful man, you are preparing to use his money to as proof." Hearing this, Huang Yuli really wanted to applaud her cousin. This reason was just too good. Not only did she shift the blame from the gamble onto her, it also hinted that she was clutching a man's thigh, ruining her reputation. If it were the previous Bai Ruo Li, she would have long become mute from fear. It was unfortunate. The current person was her, Huang Yuli. "Second sister, what are you saying? I am merely friends with that man, coincidentally meeting on the way here. That was why we came to the auction together. Didn't you also come with the Crown Prince, second sister? Are you guys not ordinary friends, or have hooked up together to do man-women things?" Bai Ruo-chi choked and was unable to speak. If she really pressed on the matter, claiming that Bai Ruo-li had a suspicious relationship with men, then wouldn't she also be pulled out as an example? Having an intimate relationship with the Crown Prince. In any case, even if you are only ordinary friends, you are still able to borrow his money to cope with the situation. This isn't something unfair for the bet. Feigning a helpless look, Huang Yuli said, "Second sister, you are far too paranoid. I promise that I won't use anybody's money. If it's discovered I have lied, then it is also considered my loss. In such a large and open place, with such a large amount of witnesses, Thousand Treasure Pavilion's shopkeeper's son is also not a vegetarian. Am I still able to hide anything under such circumstances?" Those words were spoken very open and candidly. But the more she acted like this, the more Bai Ruo-chi felt something was off. Because Bai Ruo-chi's hesitation lasted for a long time, the duration of the auction was extended. Even shopkeeper's son became somewhat impatient. Coughing lightly, he said, "Second Miss Bai, if you really have evidence, then I suggest you take the gamble. From what I can see, third Miss Bai's proposed bet is very fair. If you do not take the gamble, then it only serves to prove that you have framed her. And for Thousand Treasure Pavilion's reputation, this one must ask second Miss Bai to leave Thousand Treasure Pavilion, never to return." "You." Teeth clenched firmly, Bai Ruo-chi had no room to retreat or advance. At this moment, the Crown Prince suddenly spoke out. "Enough. Don't hesitate any longer and bet with her." Bai Ruo-chi stared at him blankly. "Your Highness?" The Crown Prince glared at her, displeased. "Things have already reached this point. If you don't bet with her, are you ready to be banned from Thousand Treasure Pavilion? This lord does not want to lose this face. Furthermore, Bai Ruo-li is more or less overcomplicating things. She does not have that much money, so she deliberately created such a shocking affair to intentionally scare you. Are you not even able to see through this? You can also listen on." Thinking over the Crown Prince's words, Bai Ruo-chi realized this really was the case. No wonder that cheap slut was so easy to talk to and willingly to cooperate. Her aim was to mislead her and gain her money. Her calculations were very good. She was nearly swindled by her. Thinking that she had grasped onto one of Huang Yuli's weaknesses, Bai Ruo-chi's expression loosened in relief. Puffing out, she said, "Okay. Since it's like this, I will gamble with you. Third sister, originally on the fact that you are my cousin, I did not wish for you to suffer such a loss. But you were so insistent on advancing like so, completely ignoring sisterly relationships and wasting my good intentions. As a result, second sister will give you a proper lesson and make you realize that words should not be recklessly spoken." On Bai Ruo-chi's face hung a righteous and virtuous look while she looked up. In the process, she gained the support of some sympathetic crowd members. It was as if she really did not wish for Bai Ruo-li to lose that money, hence her numerous refusals. But Bai Ruo-li's constant heartlessness forced her hand. Due to her lifelike and believable acting, the previous indignant crowd instantly felt lost. Could it be that second Miss Bai acted like so in consideration of her younger cousin? She did not wish to harm her third sister, thus not accepting the gamble. How could there be such a kind-hearted person in this world? Did they really wrong her? But Huang Yuli replied in an indifferent tone, as if she did not understand the hidden meaning within those words. Good. Then shopkeeper's son and everyone present can bear witness to this. Pausing for a moment, she continued, here is a VIP black card issued from Clearjade Bank under my own name. On the card, I have around 200,000 silvers deposited about 10 days ago. Shopkeeper son, you can send someone to Clearjade Bank to verify this. Clearjade Bank is the largest banking firm in South Sky region, with branches in all of the countries in South Sky region. Once you deposit your money with Clearjade Bank, you are able to withdraw it from any of its branches in South Sky region. It was a well-known fact that Clearjade Bank's black card is only issued to distinguished guests depositing 100 silvers or more. Furthermore, only the owner of the card would be able to withdraw any money from the card. So the black card within Huang Yuli's hands only served to prove that she was in possession of that much money. Furthermore, the deposit date also proved that the sum had nothing to do with the man present. So as soon as Huang Yuli's words left her mouth, Bai Ruoqi's face whitened instantly. Eye-wide in shock, she fell into her seat. While her mouth constantly stuttering, impossible. How could this be? Where did you obtain the money? That black card is fake. Shopkeeper's son spoke up. This one naturally believes third young Miss Bai's words. As fate has it, the manager of Clearjade Bank's Southview branch is here today. This one will immediately send someone to retrieve the card, so I ask third young Miss Bai to cooperate with our inspection. Fine, no problem. Her words were strong and cold as they echoed out from the third floor. No need for the inconvenience. That voice was cold as ice, devoid of any emotion and not that loud. Like a sudden thunderclap ringing right next to everyone's ears. As soon as those words were said, an immense and domineering aura descended onto the entire auction. Every single person present felt their breathing turn sluggish and their faces whiten. Surprised, Huang Yuli couldn't help but turn to face the man beside her. She was uncertain as to why the man suddenly interrupted her. You can also listen on. His slender fingers reaching out, he took the black card from Huang Yuli's small hands. Strands of profound qi began to wrap around the black card, raising it into the air before descending down and flying away like a falling leaf. Stupefied, everyone watched the small black card descend stably down, all the way to Manager Sunday. That move was just too beautiful. Once a practitioner reached the defensive profound realm, apart from using profound qi as a bodily defense, they could also manipulate it to move other objects. Of course, just moving an object was nothing extraordinary to see. What was noteworthy was the hundreds of meters between the third-level VIP room and the auction stage. Even a practitioner at the peak of the defensive profound realm could only move objects within a 10-meter radius. Additionally, the man's control of his profound qi was so stable and precise. This clearly stated that the man's cultivation was far above the defensive profound realm. As to what his cultivation level was, of those present there wasn't a single person who would be able to answer it. Turns out that the affair Bai Ruoqi spoke about, regarding the mysterious expert beside third young Miss Bai was true. And this man wasn't ordinarily powerful. Able to beat the crown prince meant he was an exceptional master. Normally this would be a hot topic for gossip. But under the auction's atmosphere, the site became unusually quiet. With such a terrifyingly powerful expert on the third floor, who dared to badmouth third young Miss Bai? Everyone became quiet from fear. There were even a few who restlessly lowered their head because they had spoken ill of Bai Ruoli. They all wished they could dig a hole and hide themselves within. Wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, Manager Sun reached for the black card and passed it to Clearjade Bank's branch manager Jin for inspection. Shortly afterwards, Manager Jin gave his verdict. Third young Miss Bai's words are true. To speak the truth, the day she came to register for this card, it was this old one who served her. Within her card are 200,000 silvers, more than enough to purchase the bottle of spirit-raising pills. The money within the card was the down payment Manager Sun had given to her when visited Thousand Treasure Pavilion. She considered the fact that she would be producing large amounts of profound armaments in the future to sell, resulting in her decision of saving funds with Clear Jade Bank. Just as he finished speaking, the card floated up and flew back into the third-floor room. Using 2 fingers, the man caught the card and delivered it to Huang Yuli. "Little thing, here is your black card. Please look after it." Giving him a glare, Huang Yuli snatched the card from his hands and said in an angry puff, "Who told you to be meddlesome?" In the man's eyes, he felt that her angry and arrogant display was especially pleasant to watch. Heart-itching, he closed in and smiled. "How did this lord vex you this time? Where was I meddlesome? This lord was afraid that some people might secretly switch out your black card, hence why I helped to deliver your card down. This lord held such kind-hearted intentions, yet you thought this lord was meddlesome? Truly no conscience are." Huang Yuli raised her eyebrow in response, "And that was out of your own initiative. Do you want me to thank you?" The man laughed muffledly. There is no need. A kiss for this lord will suffice. Get lost." Huang Yuli bestowed him an eye roll instead. In the meantime, standing on the auction stage, Manager Sun had already announced the final results. Since it has been proven that Third Young Miss Bai did not maliciously raise auction prices, this shop will present Third Young Miss Bai with a lifetime discount of 10% as compensation. While the bidding for this bottle of spirit-raising pills will end here. The pills will be paid by Second Miss Bai, belonging to Third Young Miss Bai, for the final price of 131,000 silvers. You can also listen on. From the moment Huang Yuli took out that black card, Bai Ruoqi fell into a state of petrification with her face deathly white, like a dead person. At the beginning, she still held a silver hope that the card was a fake or not enough funds within. But after she heard Manager Jin's words, Bai Ruoqi fell into complete despair. Clear Jade Bank was the most reputable bank in South Sky region. It was not possible for them to lie during such an occasion. Huang Yuli did possess that much money, but how could this be? Where did that cheap slut obtain so much money? Weren't all the properties by Liu Feng left behind taken by her father already? Paralyzed in her seat, Bai Ruoqi's heart filled with terror. What should she do now? She had unexpectedly gambled, and it was under the eyes of countless people. There was no way she could deny it. What she owed were spirit-raising pills worth 130,000 silvers. Bai Liu Jing intended for her to obtain that bottle of spirit-raising pills to increase her cultivation, so he presented her with 100,000 silvers. But now, all her money had been spent while she still carried a debt of 30,000 silvers. After all that, she still failed to obtain those spirit-raising pills. All advantages were given to that cheap slut. It was as tragic as using a wicker basket to draw water. How was she supposed to explain to Bai Liu Jing once she returned? And where would she find the money to pay that extra 30,000 silvers? She couldn't possibly ask the Crown Prince, could she? The Crown Prince's expression was also unsightly to the extreme. That heavy aura served to further deter people from approaching him. 30,000 silvers was not a sum that he would classify as a family-ruining fortune, but his face had been slapped time and time again by Huang Yuli. He had personally confirmed that Huang Yuli was merely bluffing. Unfortunately, in less than 15 minutes, Huang Yuli had used facts to give a heavy slap. Bai Ruoqi may had been on the only to suffer from the gamble, but the face he lost was not any less than hers. Just as the two people was in the midst of their depression, they suddenly heard Manager Sun's word. Bai Ruoqi was instantly called awake. She cried out, "Manager Sun, you must have calculated wrongly. Even if I lost, the sum should be 130,000 silvers. How is it 131,000 silvers? Manager Sun replied to her, "Second Miss Bai, the one who placed the price of 130,000 silvers was not you, but Third Young Miss Bai. The auction has yet to end, so if you wish to obtain the spirit-raising pills there must be at least an increase of 1,000 silvers. This would make a total of 131,000 silvers. Please rest assured, this shop is very fair with its prices, making it impossible to overcharge its guest. Or could it be that the money you prepared is not enough? There was actually a method of calculation like this. 130,000 silvers was not the final price. But what manager son was truth? The auction's rules were like so. Hurriedly, Bai Ruoqi shook her head. No, no, no. I will add that 1,000. Manager son smiled. Good. Then I congratulate second Miss Bai on successfully bidding. Wait, wait. Huang Yuli's voice sounded again, interrupting manager son's announcement in the process. Her voice was just as sweet and gentle as before. But everyone had just witnessed her methods on cheating someone. So when they heard her voice again, it like they had all heard a monster's sound instead. Bai Ruoqi took man precautions as she looked up. What do you want to do? Manager son, the auction has yet to end. Since my second sister has added 1,000 silvers, am I also able to bid? I recall that I have yet to give up. Bai Ruoqi nearly spat out a mouthful of blood. She still hasn't given up. Is she prepared to increase the price? You can also listen on. According to the auction's rules, if Huang Yuli had yet to announce her announcement, the auction would have yet to end. But the owner of the spirit-raising pills had been confirmed. Was there any meaning to increase the price? This would only serve as pure harassment. It was a miracle Bai Ruoqi did not faint on the spot. If Huang Yuli wished to continue bidding, she was completely unable to renounce bidding. Not mention she was completely unable to pay that amount. She couldn't even pay the 130,000. While Huang Yuli's black card held 200,000 silvers. She was absolutely capable to raise the price to 200,000 silvers. Bai Ruoqi was on the verge of collapsing. At that moment, the crown prince spoke through clenched teeth. Bai Ruoli, Chia is still your cousin, so don't bully her too much. Raising her eyebrow, Huang Yuli did not expect the crown prince to speak up for Bai Ruoqi. Your Highness the crown prince, what do you mean? Do you plan on speaking on behalf of my second sister? And what identity will you be holding to help her fend this? I am just unable to continue watching this. The crown prince said heavily. Bai Ruoli, you have already obtained all the advantages available yet still want to increase the price. Are you pushing your cousin onto the path of no return? You are both cousins, yet a few words from your mouth and you have swindled such a large amount of money from her. And you are still unrelenting? Not regarding anything towards sisterly relationships. Huang Yuli's tone frosted down. Your Highness, your words are very amusing. Clearly it was second sister who disregarded sisterly bonds in falsely accusing me first. But now her losses are this disastrous, she can only blame herself. As the country's heir, your Highness words should be spoken with evidence. Nobles from others attending today's auction are not a few. Speaking without thinking, inverting black to white will make Southview into a joke. You. The crown prince had intended to speak out and help Bai Ruoqi, but he was unable to outspeak Huang Yuli. In Southview, his words had always carried great weight. But today, he was constantly refuted and silenced by Huang Yuli instead. This experience was incomparably suffocating. Before he could retort her, Huang Yuli began to speak out again. But I am not someone who disregards sentiments. Though second sister deliberately wished to harm me, I am still willing to open the net from one side. I will voluntarily withdraw from bidding. This bottle of pills will be given to my second sister for 131,000 silvers. Bai Ruoqi nearly fainted, again. She swindled so much money from her and still said she yielded. She made merely stopped and further bids, yet she acted as if she owed her such a big favor. In actuality, Huang Yuli honestly felt that she yielded quite a lot today. Sitting in the private room, Huang Yuli's propped up her chin as she shook her head regretfully. Ari, money It just flew away like that. Seeing that her cheeks were puffed out and absent-minded, the man took the opportunity to pinch her cheeks. Caught unaware, a red pinch mark formed on Huang Yuli's cheek. Without delay, a palm strike slapped that pervert away. What are you doing? Itching for a beating? Though the man was hit by her, he was not angry. He was actually recalled the feeling. That little thing's cheek sure was soft, like tofu. The feeling was so good, really wanted to pinch it a bit more. And if he was able to bite, how good would that be? Because he was thinking so blissfully, saliva nearly leaked out of his mouth. Glancing at him, Huang Yuli saw that his expression had changed. One glance was enough to tell that he was thinking something suspicious. In a burst of fury, she slapped out, "God-forsaken pervert! Shameless!" Snorting coldly, she shifted her head in an arrogant and cute manner. "You can also listen on." When he heard her cold snort, the man regained himself and smirked. "Little thing, why are you angry again? Is it because you can't bear to lose money? Then why did you put on the act of a great scholar, instead of directly increasing the price? With the backing of this lord, is there a need to be afraid of that something of a crown prince?" Huang Yuli cast him a sidelong glance. "What do you understand? Giving up bidding here, I will be able to earn even more money in the future round. If I were to scare them all here, how would I be able to earn money from them in the future?" When he heard her words, the man was somewhat flabbergasted. "What? You plan to swindle more money? From the looks of it, your second sister doesn't seem to have any money left. Even if you were to kill her, I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to obtain a single penny more. What swindling? Don't spout nonsense. I am earning money honestly and openly. I am someone who has always been upright." Her mouth craftily hooked up. "Though second sister is finished, there is still the crown prince, no? They say that our South U's state treasury is flowing with money. The crown prince definitely has more than enough money." Looking at her for quite a while, the man took quite some time to process. He smiled and shook his head in response. And he thought that he was quite black-hearted normally. Meeting with this little thing, he realized that he was only a see her trail dust, never hoping to catch up. Once he compared himself to this little thing, he had become a good, kind and honest young lad. The biggest mistake the crown prince made today was to provoke that little fox. Looks like he must have a few more considerations and eyes in the future. Instead of obtaining a wife, he might be sold off by the little fox he admired. The auction for the spirit-raising pills finally ended. Because quite a lot of time had been consumed in this round, Manager Sun couldn't help but speed up the bidding for the remaining items. Due to the exorbitant prices and bids that occurred in the previous bidding, many people had yet to recover themselves. As a result, the final prices of the items were not won at ideal prices. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Manager Sun felt somewhat nervous. But when his gaze landed on the next item, his eyes suddenly lit up. His entire body energizing. "Everyone. I ask everyone to settle down. The item is one of the most important and valuable treasures. If you were to miss this chance, you will definitely regret it." Once they heard those words, the people gradually began to clamor again before finally settling down. All their gazes turned to focus on the case placed in the center of the stage. They all felt a premonition. Sure enough, Manager cleared his throat and began to speak. "I am sure that everyone has already heard for this auction. Thousand Treasure Pavilion was very fortunate to strike a deal with a mysterious armament master. This master has entrusted us to sell off a batch of third-leveled armaments in this auction." Of the people present, everyone erupted into an uproar. The majority of those present had come especially for those third-leveled armament. Now they have finally appeared. The rumored treasures have finally shown their colors. Manager Sun smiled out. "As to how rare and scarce third-leveled profound armaments are, I believe that distinguished guests should more or less know. It can take many years for a third-tiered armament master to refine a profound armament at the third level. Each one an accumulation of their blood and sweat. And this time, we shall auction a total of 20 of these items. Each one is a third-leveled product. What's more important is," as he paused to look down, he saw everyone had holding their breaths in anticipation for his next words. Manager Sun calmly continued, "By our conjecture, this armament master comes from a super sect and his refining standards deep and unmeasurable. It is highly likely that they have reached the 5th tier or higher. You can also listen on." 5th tier or higher? Did I mishear? God. How is this possible? This kind of armament master is a person from legends. If these were profound armaments refined by a 5th tier armament master, then they would definitely be stronger than ordinary third-leveled armament. I really didn't come in vain today. I could actually witness a 5th tier armament master's works. Even if I cannot successfully bid for one, viewing one is already the accumulation of 3 lifetimes worth of fortune. As the guests below rose in an uproar, their eyes sparkled with excitement. Even the ever-gloomy-faced Crown Prince's spirit were raised from the news. He raised his head with great movement, heart beating rapidly. Today, he still didn't come in vain. The auctioned profound armaments from Thousand Treasure Pavilion truly surpassed his expectations this time. Even within Heavenly Body College, a 5th-tier armament master's work was a treasure that few people would be able to hold. Although he had been wiped to the floor by Ruo Li and the mysterious male beside her, if he was able to obtain that complete set of profound armor, then everything would have been worth it. Seeing as the atmosphere was once again set ablaze, the smile on Manager Sun's became wider. Then I will no longer wait on everyone's appetites. We shall begin to bid for the first 3rd-leveled profound armament. In one swift movement, Manager Sun whipped open the red sandalwood chest. The silver blade that lay within immediately started to glow with a dazzling light. As Manager Sun took out the silver sword for all to see, he also introduced it. This blade is named the Autumn Water Sword. Just from its outer appearance, I am sure that everyone is able to tell it is a profound weapon with formidable offensive capabilities. That's right, this blade is a 3rd-leveled upper-grade profound weapon and can amplify attacks by 6-fold. Anyone who heard this, all drew in their breaths. 3rd-leveled upper-grade. Amplification of 6-fold. And this is the first time for me to ever see a 3rd-leveled profound weapon. Truly deserves it reputation. Not just well-deserved reputation. I once heard that a 3rd-leveled upper-grade profound weapon is capable of amplifying attack prowess by 3-folds, for good ones. Whereas this blade has actually reached 6-fold. This is something difficult to achieve even for 4th-leveled upper-grade profound weapons. Was it me who misheard, or Thousand Treasure Pavilion who spoke incorrectly? Hearing the discussion and misgivings of the crowd below, Manager Sun smiled with great satisfaction. Today's profound armaments have all been personally verified by the Armament Guild's Vice President, guaranteeing its grade and abilities. There is no possibility of being incorrect. However, to convince my honored guests, we have specially hired a practitioner to test it. As he said this, a few practitioners clothed in black, light armor walked onto the stage. Manager Sun began to introduce. These bodyguards are commanders of our Thousand Treasure Pavilion Defense Force. They are 3rd-stage Spirit Profound Realm Cultivators. For the next act, it shall be them who will test the profound armament for all to see. As his words fell, restlessness coursed below. Within South U, Spirit Profound Realm practitioners were very rare and could all become lords. The Emperor himself would also have to take the initiative to win them over. While Thousand Treasure Pavilion actually Spirit Profound Realm practitioners as bodyguard. Not even the Emperor would be this extravagant. How deep did Thousand Treasure Pavilion's power run? All the while, the Crown Prince was staring at the stage rigidly, face pale. He had recognized the face. That bodyguard was the exact guard who had blocked his steps at the entrance. No wonder that bodyguard was not afraid of him, the Crown Prince. It was all because his cultivation was far above his. He didn't put him in his eyes. You can also listen on. Though the Crown Prince felt very stifled, he couldn't help but rejoice. Thankfully, he didn't do any drastic moves. Otherwise, he would have tripped greatly in Thousand Treasure Pavilion. Clearing his throat again, Manager Sun interrupted the crowd below. It is not proper to delay affairs, so I invite the guards to test for everyone. I will first invite Guard Chi to strike this strength testing stone with a normal sword. Raising a normal iron sword, Guard Chi walked to the side of the stage. In the corner, stood a strength testing stone about the height of 2 people. This strength testing stone was a common method of testing a cultivator power in the Tianling continent. During school entrance examination, this would be used quite frequently. Walking expressionlessly towards the strength testing stone, he suddenly raised the blade and slashed out. As the blade struck the strength testing stone heavily, a loud boom sounded. Straight after, it snapped in 2. In addition to this, the chi wave cause from the strike spread out in all directions, taking the breath away from the guests in the first few rows. Meanwhile, The crystal on the strength testing stone was undulating a multitude of colors. It was only after a good while did it stabilize. Walking up, manager read and announced the result, 28,000 jin. How amazing! That guard chi should be around the spirit profound realm 2nd or 3rd levels. Quite a few people began to discuss amongst themselves. Manger Sun continued to speak. Next, I will ask guard chi to pick up that 3rd leveled upper grade profound armament, the Autumn Water Sword. Allow everyone to see if it truly has that much offensive power. Nodding his head, guard chi took up the Autumn Water Sword and once again stood in front of the strength testing stone. Falling into the same position as before, he raised the sword with great focus and slashed out. As his profound energy poured into the sword, the dazzling glow began to intensify and light up the entire auction site. Everyone subconsciously covered their ears, fear that there would be an even loud sound than before. On the contrary, all they heard was a kai sound. On the side of the large strength testing stone, that swore had actually left a profoundly deep mark. One had to know that this strength testing stone had endured many strikes from countless masters. It was many times sturdier than ordinary iron. Very quickly, the crystal on top ceased its fluctuations. Before Manager Sun could announce the result, those below the stage had erupted into a frenzy. 45,000 jin. It's actually 45,000 jin. It really is 6-fold. Just from the strike's power alone, it has already reached the Spirit Profound Realm 5th level. God! Just with this blade, you would be able to contend against the 3rd staged practitioners at the lower level. Too mystical. This sword, I must obtain it. Hearing the enthusiastic exclamations below, Manager Sun could no longer conceal his happiness. He immediately declared, 3rd leveled upper grade profound weapon Autumn Water Sword starting price is 100,000 silvers. I ask for everyone to begin their bid. 120,000. 150,000. 200,000. Towards a vassal level power, 200,000 was already considered an enormous amount. To use that much for a single use pill, many people were unwilling. But towards an armament that could be passed down to their descendants, even if they were to use all their family's fortune, if they were able to obtain it, it would be worthy. Even those sitting in the VIP rooms, the various royalties could not hold themselves back any longer. Gradually, each one began to add their bids. In a blink of an eye, the starting price had been increased by several fold. You can also listen on. Inside the private room, as her hands were propped under her chin, Huang Yuli's pair of intelligent bright eyes looked at the crowd below. As she watched, her mouth parted in surprise. As the man watched from the side, he had another sudden urge to pinch her cheeks. Especially after he saw a rare expression of blankness. Mouth hooking, he went to pick up the teacup to personally pour and serve Huang Yuli. Little girl, what are staring blankly for? The price has only reached 500,000 silvers, but it's enough to shock you. Turning her head, Huang Yuli rolled her eyes at him. I wasn't at loss over the silvers, I was at a loss over your shamelessness. You opened your mouth to causally say that this mystery master is a 5th-tier armament master, and declared they were someone from a great sect. You sure can lie. You are indeed a shameless profiteer. The man's eyebrows raised coolly. You cannot slander this Lord R. Hidden sect. Was it not you who said to Manager Sun? As for the matter of 5th-tier armament master, it was a blind guess on Manager Sun's account. But he did not say it was for certain, just that there was a possibility. Do you understand a possibility? Huang Yuli stared at him for a while and said only one sentence, shameless are you. Because she had to hide her identity, she had to fool Manager Sun and said this mysterious master of hers was in closed-door cultivation. But hasn't this man already seen through her? Yet he pushed the responsibility on her. As for that set of maybe, probably, roughly argument, that was completely deceiving the consumers. The Huang Yuli from the past, though had far surpassed the 5th tier, her strength was still lacking. So she did not have the nerve to paste this gold on her face. Yet this man dared to say it. And still so many people believed his word. Moreover, this man was not ashamed. On the contrary, he was proud of it. Showing such clear dislike towards him, he still flashed an extremely mesmerizing smile. Somewhat proudly she said, "Flattery, flattery. This is but necessary propaganda. Can you not see that your profound armament is selling at a high price? This is all because of this lord's hard work. Show off." Lips pursed, Huang Yuli whipped her head around. Downstairs, the auction for the autumn water sword had entered the final stage. 270,000, 280,000, 300,000, 500,000. From the left side of the VIP room came a low male voice, suddenly raising the price to 500,000. For a time, no one continued to bid. Manager Sun began the countdown from 3. The autumn water sword was soared to the final price of 500,000 silvers. Ordinarily, a third-leveled upper-grade profound weapon would generally be auctioned at about 300,000. Though Huang Yuli's sword increased attack power more than usual, it would at most be raised to 400,000 or so. Yet the current price was higher than the market price by 100,000. It most definitely was linked to the shameless and exaggerating advertisement of Thousand Treasure Pavilion. Subconsciously, Huang Yuli looked towards the man, coincidentally making eye contact. Though the mask covered the man's face, but that pair of profoundly inky eyes was like a magnet, sucking her soul inside. Huang Yuli fell into a bit of a daze. "Little thing, did you become stupid from looking at this lord for too long?" She didn't regain herself until she heard the man's low laughter. "You think too much." She pursing her mouth, her face fluttered with an embarrassing flush. Unknowingly, the man's hand had flitted towards her hands. As those artistically beautiful fingers slid across her hand, they left a shuddering feeling. "You can also listen on." Slender eyebrows raised, Huang Yuli was about to withdraw her hand. Unexpectedly, the man firmly gripped onto her lean wrist. "What? This lord assisted you in earning this much money and you don't show the least bit of gratefulness?" Playing with her slender jade fingers, the man's mouth hooked up again. Murmuring in a low voice, it became huskier and even more seductive. This man was born with the innate ability to seduce females. Even if his appearance was not visible, his overbearing power and charismatic demonism was more than enough to make others lose sense of themselves. Huang Yuli was the exception. Sweeping her gaze over the man, she said coolly, "Release your hand." "I don't like others touching me." He smiled, not releasing. "This lord is afraid you will go back on your word. How about this? Tell me how you will repay this lord." Huang Yuli responded, "Your skin sure is thick." Thousand Treasure Pavilion had originally planned to take their portion of commission from this auction. "I will not go back on my word. Your intention is for me to compensate you through another means. Since you are this miserly, I will increase your commission by 1-fold. This should be fine. This is the first time I am meeting such a petty person." The man's mouth parted. This little girl's mouth really was toxic. Said he was petty. Very good. This account he shall remember it well. In the future, he will show her how much of a magnanimous man he was. Unknown to what charming scene he had imagined, the man revealed a pleasant smile. Money, this lord does not put in his eyes. Profound armaments, this lord is also not lacking in. If you want to use commission to deal with this lord, this will be unacceptable. But if you were to devote your heart, the man scanned her from top to bottom. Puffing out in laughter, when your 2 poached eggs can grow to the size of little steamed buns, then this lord can think about it. What poached eggs? Little steamed buns? All Huang Yuli felt was the strangeness in the man's smile. But blanking out for a short while, she realized what he meant. Instantly her cool and calm face turned into a resentful aunt. As Huang Yuli stared at those perfectly shaped lips, she really wished she could rip them to shred. A dog's mouth will never be able to spit out ivory. Constantly she had told herself that before the auction finished, the man still held great value. Plus, she was currently within his territory. If she were to go up against him now, it would put her at a great disadvantage. Hence her self-control and not presenting him a slap on the cheek. When the man saw the little fox's gaze become more and more malevolent, he decided to quit while he was ahead. Slow retracting his hand, he said coolly, "TSK TSK. Just making a small joke. Little thing, You have such a big temper. Such a violent woman. Careful you cannot be married off in the future. This is a case of taking advantage and still asking them to be obedient. Huang Yuli raised her chin and frostily said, "What does that have to do with you? You should worry more about yourself. Always finding the flaws in others, so be careful that you don't age prematurely. Otherwise in a few years' time, then that place might become useless." Because the man was drinking some tea, he choked on his tea when he heard her words. He coughed for quite some time before recovering. Was it necessary for this little fox to be this poisonous? Did she really have to curse him so? Did she have even a little bit of a conscience? Furthermore, if he were to become incompetent, wouldn't be her bad luck? Luckily Huang Yuli was oblivious to the man's inner thoughts. Otherwise a great battle would erupt in this private room. While these two people were in the midst of their quarrel, the auction below had gone through various rounds already. One by one, each of Huang Yuli's profound armaments were carried one stage. Each profound armament's bidding reached outstanding heights. You can also listen on. For everyone, this was the first time they had ever witnessed such a large amount of third-leveled profound armaments. So each time a new profound armament was brought on stage, the garnered reactions were surprise and admiration. From the accumulation of anticipation within the atmosphere, it became more and more rowdy. Coupled with the ingenious hyping executed by Manager Sun, many large families who did plan on participating were also roused and began to bid. They too stepped into the ranks bidders. The final prices of each new profound armament also rose higher and higher. So much that for one-third leveled profound armament that could increase cultivational speed, had been sold for the astronomical price of 1 million silvers. This caused Manager Sun's smile to beam so wide that later, he could not even close his mouth. So much money. After this many years of hosting auctions, the total amount of silvers spent in each auction could not compare to today. When the mood had reached the highest peak, Manager Sun coughed lightly and said, "Everyone, please settle down. Please settle down for a short while." But those below still continued their ruckus. Wrinkling his eyebrows, Manager Sun spoke again. This time he shouted loudly, "Everyone, please do not be hot-tempered. Those who did not successfully bid for a profound armament, do not worry. Because we are about to reveal the highlight of this auction." Once his words fell, the noise immediately stopped. Numerous eyes were bulged open in surprise without blinking as they fixed their undivided attention to the stage. This highlight treasure had already, 7 days prior, been painted out by Thousand Treasure Pavilion. Spreading throughout the entire capital. In the legends, only advanced grade armament masters would be able to refine a profound armament set. Although it was at the third leveled, profound armament sets were extremely rare. It was definitely something that an ordinary third-tiered profound armament was incapable of creating. You didn't even need to mention their boundless might. The true buyers had all come for this set of profound armor. Clapping his hands, 13 beautiful women walked on stage, each carrying a silver casket. The entire set of that profound armor was displayed for all to see. Under the lightning, each component of the profound armor glowed a dark cyan color which matched with engraved carvings. This made it seem all the more mysterious and powerful. The bustling auction hall instantly turned tranquil and calm. Every single person held their respective breaths as they observed in admiration towards the work on stage. Manager Sun said, "This profound armor set consists of 13 components. Each one is able to increase offensive power by twofold individually. Once they are completed to form a complete entity, one's defensive power is risen explosively. It would be approximately 3 times stronger than a practitioner at the defensive profound realm. Apart from this, there is active attack type profound skill, Dark Vortex." Dark Vortex? What profound skill is this? Right. How come I have never heard of it? Towards the questions and musings of the crowd below, Manager Sun was unperturbed. This is the first time that this profound skill is seen. It may possibly be a personal skill of this hidden master's. After going through a round of testing in Thousand Treasure Pavilion, we have concluded that its attack power is immense. It can increase the attack by 5 times, dealing a critical blow to the opponent. Furthermore, it has an additional cursing attribute that will greatly decrease the opponent's speed and offense. What? 5-fold. And it also has an additional curse. How could this be? Such a powerful profound skill should be at the black level middle grade. To carve and meld this profound skill into the profound armor, how high would this armament master's skill be? Right. This is just too amazing. Manager son, are you purposely speaking such lies to raise the price of this item? You can also listen on. Holding on to his beard, Manager son said in a stern tone, "Our 1,000-treasure pavilion businesses were always honest and upright. How could we possibly lie to everyone? Since this profound armor set became the highlight product of this auction, it would also be tested on site to reveal its effects for all to see." Then he smiled and said, "Below, the Armament Guild's Vice President Yang, who will personally test this profound armor for us." Grandmaster Yang? Did I hear incorrectly? It's actually Grandmaster Yang. 1,000-treasure pavilion really isn't simple. To be able to invite Grandmaster Yang to personally test this work. The audience marveled at 1,000-treasure pavilion's large influence in shock. One must know that the Armament Guild was a very arrogant group. To invite them to test credibility of a product, in their view, was a degrading task. And only those lower-class people would do such a thing. Towards such a respectable profession, an armament master would not undertake such a dangerous job. Not to mention that Grandmaster Yang was a stately third-tiered armament master. In South Yu, he was a highly respected and famous old man. It was simply a miracle for 1,000-treasure pavilion to invite such a character. As Manager Sun listened to those praises, his smile turned very mysterious and unreadable. In actuality, he knew the truth far better than anyone else. The reason behind Grandmaster Yang's trip today was not through his invitation, but out of his own wishes. Grandmaster Yang most definitely did not come on behalf of 1,000-treasure pavilion's face. He came purely because he was impressed by such high-leveled work seen through this profound armor set. Even at the expense of several trips to request to examine the piece, he was still declined. In order to grab the opportunity to have a close examination of this work of art, he even volunteered to test it at the auction, sacrificing himself. Unfortunately, even if he was ready to put his life on the line, the mysterious master would also refuse to see him. Under the supervision of Grandmaster Yang, the test process was carried out in a strict and orderly manner. Meanwhile, in the private room, the legendary creator Huang Yu Li merely hooked her lips in an arc, a ray of sharp light passing through her eyes. Sitting to her side, the Lord of 1,000-treasure pavilion narrowed his eyes slightly when he saw her sly smile. This little fox, what ghostly idea is she thinking of again? Coincidentally, Huang Yu Li turned towards him, making eye contact. Huang Yu Li then revealed a toothy grin and said, "Lord Owner, I have an idea. I wish for you to lend me a few of your bodyguards to use. This will enable for this profound armament to sell for a higher price. Do you have an interest?" The man became startled momentarily, not answering immediately. When this little girl exposed her 2 rows of orderly and white teeth, those light pink lips were like cherry blossoms, incomparably beautiful and lovely. Just like misty pearls, suddenly releasing a dazzling brilliance. Simply breathtaking. More importantly, it was the first time that the little fox laughed so amicably towards him. It even seemed a bit illogical. The man slowly spat out 2 words, "No interest." "You." That smile disappearing instantly from the little fox's face. Turning fierce, she stared at him. "Did you not say that you will make money for me? Lord Owner, why are you backing out so soon? A man should possess a little credibility, no? Okay." The man shrugged his shoulders and said, "How much can 1 jin of reputation be worth? Can you use it to feed yourself?" The tone he spoke in was not particularly dull. But in the current situation and under that circumstance, it seemed especially flat in Huang Yu Li's ears. "Your face is really thicker than the walls." Flattery, flattery. The man turned the topic around. "However, if you are willing to kiss this lord, then this lord can consider helping you. You can also listen on." Huang Yu Li was a bit startled, before a faint layer of anger appeared on her face. "Lord Owner, If you take advantage of others, you are not a gentleman. As the man slowly neared her, the corners of his mouth shifted into a radiant arc. This lord has never said he was some gentleman. He leaned forward and without leaving any part her petite body exposed, he enveloped her within his embrace. This was a very strong invasion of her privacy. In the blink of an eye, the only sound that could be heard was the man's steady breathing. Those thin and perfect lips slightly pursed and almost within reach of Huang Yuli's own. Huang Yuli withdrew subconsciously, but was firmly pressed down by a large hand unable to move her seat. What do you want? As a result of the man's close proximity, Huang Yuli's voice was as light as a mosquito. He was so close that a simple small movement would immediately cause them to touch lips. His eyes hanging down, he wantonly looked at Huang Yuli's 7 parts young and childlike face. That little fox's usual confident face was in rare moment of panic. Entrancing and tickling his heart. He huskily smirked. Kiss this lord. Your wish, this lord will complete it for you. This transaction, isn't it very good? Huang Yuli's eyes clouded and immediately made up her mind. Looking to the side, she shot forward to give the man a light peck on the mouth. What the Lord of Thousand Treasure Pavilion said was correct. A small kiss that could be exchanged for an extremely large profit was not a business lacking in any way. In her past life, before she had the chance to touch a man's finger, she was sent to the death row. Though this sort of frivolous affair was never experienced, she still heard of such events occurring. Merely a kiss. It was nothing really. She could just treat it as a small dog's bite. When the man suddenly felt a soft and tender beyond imagination touch, he was rooted to the ground. Those light lips, with that sweet and fresh mesmerizing breath was all the more fascinating. Unfortunately, it lasted merely for a breath. Before he could fully experience that feeling, it disappeared once again. You want to deal with me like that? No way. Sensing the little fox's intention to flee, he moved his caging hand from her shoulder to her waist. This forced a change in her trajectory, allowing her fall into his arms. Immediately, he bowed his head and resolutely pressed his lips onto hers. Unfortunately, before he could re-experience that wonderful feeling he yearned for, a searing bout of pain flooded from his neck. Stopping his movements, the man did not dare look down. He watched as the seemingly weak and innocent little fox display her sharp canines to display her exceptionally innocent laugh, while her pair of slender little hands tightly held a small dagger about 15 centimeters long. This dagger was obviously a very high-level profound armament. It was as thin as butterfly wing. And in particular angles, the blade would appear invisible, barely identifiable by the naked eye, while the dagger's sharp edge was currently lying on his neck. This little thing unceremoniously used quite a lot force. The dagger had cut into his neck skin to allow a trail of bright red blood to flow down towards his collarbone. Without the slightest bit of doubt, the man was certain that this little thing would ruthlessly sever his windpipe if he were to make the tiniest of movement. Huang Yuli sweetly smiled. Lord Owner, we agreed on one kiss. I have already given you that kiss, so how could you raise the arranged price like that? This business should not done like this. You can also listen on. The man leisurely lowered his eyes to the same level as those pair of crafty and large ones. Meanwhile, the sharp dagger was still pressed on his throat, blood flowing incessantly. However, his face did not reveal the slightest bit of fury. On the contrary, his eyes actually revealed abundant interest. This little fox is too intelligent. She was completely aware of her influence over him. During the instance in which his guard was lowered, she took the opportunity to capture his weak point. She was truly ruthless, using his unwavering feelings against him. Unfortunately, he just liked her various plots and crafty mind, coupled with that charming smile of hers. No matter how much or little blood he shed, he would still feel a sense of satisfaction. Huang Yuli, on the other hand, had taken all sorts of measures, afraid he would counterattack in a fit of fury. She truly did not expect the man to smile. That smile unknowingly caused her scalp to numb. Biting her lip, she rolled her eyes at him. Why are you laughing? Do you think that I am really afraid of you? Let me tell you, killing person is a small thing for me. Stabbing you once is nothing. Little thing, why are you treating this lord so harshly? The man continued to smile while retreating a few steps. It's not like this lord refused to help you. Furthermore, that was such a half-hearted kiss. Could you call that a kiss? When you are conducting business, you must be upright. Otherwise, wouldn't you be sorely lacking in sincerity? Shifting her gaze around, Huang Yuli raised her arrogant eyes. Speaking in an icy tone, she said, "This is just how I conduct my affairs. Once the products are taken out, they cannot be exchanged. Now hurry up and pay. TSK. Shaking his head in a very exaggerated manner, the man suddenly poked out his tongue to lick the area she had just kissed. Soon after, he began to smack his lips as if he was attempting to recall the experience. Those actions were just too ambiguous. When those actions were paired with his impeccably handsome lower face, it seemed all the more seductive and alluring. If not for the fact that Huang Yuli had met no small amount of peerless males, her face would have long turned red from those movements. Quite pleased at himself, the man looked at her captivating face and smiled. "Your family's goods are so lacking and a bit rough. In the future, this lord will properly teach you. This time, I will let you off." As soon as he finished his comment, he called out, "Mo Chi." An expressionless guard, clothed in black armor, walked in and gave his bow and salute. "Master, please instruct. Third young Miss Bai has a task that needs your assistance. Go report to her for your orders." This subordinate obeys. Walking towards the two people, he lifted his head. His eyes widened in surprise and nearly froze in place. What did he see? On his Honorable Highness' neck was a trail of blood. How could this be? With his Highness cultivation, there should not be a single person capable of injuring a single hair of his. Just how did he sustain those wounds? During this moment of shock, the blood-stained short dagger within Huang Yuli's grasp entered Mo Chi's line of sight. "It's you. You injured the master." He then put on a false facade of pondering and instantly struck out towards Huang Yuli. The violent, profound chi instantly engulfed her. Huang Yuli didn't foresee Mo Chi's dramatic reaction. Adding on the fact that he was also a practitioner of the fourth stage, the Dan profound realm, the powerless Huang Yuli was entirely suppressed by his power. In that moment of time, not a single one of her movements were capable of coordinating with her thoughts. Despite the countless methods her brain recalled that could counter Mo Chi's blow, her body was incapable of executing them. Even the simplest action of dodging was impossible. You can also listen on. However, Mo Chi's forceful blow was unable to land on Huang Yuli. When he was only 3 kai away from Huang Yuli, an immense surge of power that was 3 times denser than Mo Chi's erupted. This surge of power flew out and sent him flying away heavily. Then the Lord Owner's frosty voice sounded. "Mo Chi, what are you doing? Such courage, or is it because you do not wish to continue living?" Clutching his stomach, Mo Chi struggled to kneel. "Master, this woman wounded you are. With your esteemed and respected status, she dared. Things became clear for Huang Yuli. It seemed that this devoted personal guard could not bear to see his beloved master suffer under the hands of this malicious female. Stroking his neck, the bright red blood stained his fingers. The blood looked especially unpleasant when contrasted on his jade-white fingers. Not uttering a single word, he turned his head to face Huang Yuli, the corners of his mouth raised. Sweeping her gaze over him, Huang Yuli harumphed emotionlessly. "What? Is your family's master's identity that honorable? He cannot even be touched. That's good then. As long your family's master leaves as far as possible, never to appear in front of me, even if I wish to stab him, I would be unable to." "Correct." The man's sword-like eyebrows suddenly raised up and he uttered a soft groan. His display portrayed his sudden spike in pain that could no longer be endured. Nervous, Mo Chi nearly jumped out again. "Master, you..." But the man didn't even glance at him because his gaze was focused on Huang Yuli. He then whined in an aggrieved and wronged tone. "Little thing, do you need to be this heartless? Relax, no matter what identity this lord has, he will not put on any airs in front of his madam. Definitely won't retaliate when hit, retort when scolded. If you wish to stab, you can stab as many times as you want. Her eyebrow raised, serious. Shaking the gloomy-looking blade in her hands, it conveyed her intention to slice a few more times. Master. Mochi nearly rushed over again. Unfortunately this time, he was held back by the other guards who had rushed in from the ruckus heard earlier. What are you doing? Don't stop me. Can't you see that woman wishes to stab Master? Geez. You blockhead, enough. Mo Liu firmly held him down from behind. Can you not see? Master was willingly stabbed by young Miss Bai. Otherwise, with young Miss Bai's cultivation, how would she harm the Master? Let alone even raise her hand? What nonsense are you saying? If Master is not a masochist, why would he be willing to be stabbed by others? Hastily Mo Liu covered up his mouth. SSSH. What nonsense. Do you wish to die? In fact, Mo Liu was also feeling quite bewildered inside. Although one could vaguely say that the Master's attitude was done in order to wed this young Miss Bai. But what sort of status and identity did their Master possess? The ideal spouse of numerous royal princesses and proud sect geniuses. Yet his personality remained frosty, proud and aloof, never putting on a false facade. Why was this young Miss Bai allowed to be indulged to this degree? Following the Master these years, any threat or person who dared to question the authority of his Master were all turned into ashes within fire. Only this third young Miss Bai, to the extent of throwing her attitude around randomly, even that could be overlooked. But now she also dared to point a knife to the Master's neck. What was stranger was the fact the Master took it seriously. Incorrect, it was that he was treating it seriously, but it appeared that he quite enjoyed it. Under the strange gazes of his subordinates, the Lord Owner automatically leaned towards Huang Yuli. He also purposefully pulled open his clothes to reveal those perfectly shaped pectoral muscles. White as jade with the muscle contours clearly seen. Come, here. This lord's flesh belongs to you. Really didn't think little thing, your tastes were this heavy. But as the saying goes, hitting is family, scolding is love. Hitting and scolding is. You can also listen on. Is your head? Her face turned green. When he spoke like that, it killed all her interests. Otherwise, would she not state that she was both close and loved him? Things that came out of the man's mouth, who know to what degrees would he twist them to? Besides, she still had business to conduct. Putting away the dagger, Huang Yuli said, I towards your physical body have no interest. Hurry up and wear your clothes. Lazily, the man swaggered back into his seat, but refused to cover up his chest. He held no intention to wear his clothes properly. Rolling her eyes, she continued to speak. Your guards, how come they do not listen to you at all? Are you reliable? I am starting to think that cooperating with you was a huge mistake. The guards whose heads were bowed down, all secretly drew in cold breath. This young Miss Bai's courage was not ordinary. Daring to talk with the Master like so. Not only did she reprimand him, she also questioned the credibility of their Master. This really. Even if the Master was interested in her, he would not tolerate this, right? Contrary to their expectations, not a single trace of anger was seen. He replied lightly, there is no need for disobedient guards to remain. Mo-chi, go to the punishment hall to receive your penance. Mo-san, Mo-sure, go listen to what young Miss Bai wants you to complete. Mo-chi was quickly dragged out, while the other two guards walked over. Witnessing the previous scene, all the guards came to one understanding. This petite and amicable-looking third young Miss Bai was in fact not someone easy to deal with. More importantly, the Master's indulgence of her was virtually unlimited. Although she did not have profound chi, possessed low strength, if you were to disrespect her, Mo-chi was their role model. Therefore, Mo-san and Mo-sha prepared their minds many times. Unusually respectful, they walked to Huang Yuli and gave her a formal salute. Glancing at them, Huang Yuli nodded with satisfaction. Looks pretty good. Cultivation is also passable. What I want you to do is very simple. Later I want you to help me spread some words. Expressionlessly, Mo-san and Mo-sha listened carefully. But when they heard what she wished to spread, they could not help but finally show a look of surprise. Sitting to the side, The Lord Owner almost choked on his tea when heard her intentions. It took some time before he stopped coughing. He shook his head and smiled. Little thing, do you need to be so ruthless? If Prince Li Mo were to know how you were playing with him, I think he would be angered to death. Prince Li Mo? Head tilted in confusion, Huang Yu Li realized that it was the Crown Prince Taboo name. Because of this, she gave the man a second glance. Look at what you're saying. I did not steal, did not snatch, and did not send people beat him. Furthermore, it's not like I forced him. If he ate a loss, that is all voluntary, is it not? Do not casually wrong me. Man shook his head, laughing. But you dug the pit, so he has no choice but to jump down. You really are too black-hearted. Huang Yu Li pursed her lips. You flatter me too much. I am still far from reaching you. Then waving her hand, she continued. You too, what are you standing there blankly for? Seize the moment, or you will miss it. Mo San and Mo She rapidly exited. Once they reached the door, they looked at each other and carefully wiped the cold sweat on their foreheads. This third young Miss Bai's treachery is really comparable with their master. Too dreadful. In the future, not matter what, they must not offend her. You can also listen on. Meanwhile, on the auction stage, Grandmaster Yang's demonstration had concluded. Under the supervision of Grandmaster Yang, the profound armor displayed a result that was astounding. The spectators below the stage had all cried out in amazement. Seeing that the time was just right, Manager Sun smiled out and announced, I believe that everyone saw the results for themselves. This profound armor's power has greatly surpassed the abilities of the other individual profound armaments. As long as you are able to don it, battle ability equal with those fifth levels above you would no longer be a dream. Profound armor of this grade can only be seen and never obtained. Next, we will. In the middle of his words, a beauty suddenly walked on stage and whispered something in his ear. Stunned, Manager Sun turned around to the back of the stage. There he saw a very familiar silhouette. It was his mysterious owner's personal bodyguard. Not daring to be negligent, he declared a momentary pause in the auction and left the stage. No one thought that after waiting for such a long time and coupled with such a detailed explanation and demonstration, Manager Sun would say the word suspended. Everyone had already been incited, their wallets ready to begin bidding. This was a blatant pouring of cold water on their heads. Immediately a few disappointed guests protested from the audience. What's the problem? Why aren't you starting the auction? Are you playing with us? Right. Taking off the pants to just let us see this. What tricks are Thousand Treasure Pavilion up to? Do not impatient. Stay safe and do not be impatient. Wait and see for a while. Maybe an accident occurred. The Crown Prince was within the crowd of those emotionally stirred. Repeatedly his face had been slapped today. But the reason why he persevered and continued to sit all this time was because of his wish to obtain that set of profound armor. Biting the bullet and looking forward for so long, it really came as a surprise for this sudden suspension of the auction. For a time, his breath was lodged in the chest. An indescribable sense of nausea could be felt as he heavily hit his seat handle. His face revealing his irritation. What is going on? In the end, what does Thousand Treasure Pavilion want to do? After all this time, just to call for a suspension. At the edge of her seat, Bai Ruoqi consoled, Your Royal Highness, do not worry. The credibility of Thousand Treasure Pavilion has always been very good. And with such an important auction, perhaps a mishap may have genuinely occurred. What kind of situation? Could it be more important than this profound armament? Can they not deal with it once the auction has ended? This owner of Thousand Treasure Pavilion cannot be this appalling in conducting business. Keeping us hanging here, what is his meaning? Just as his impatience had reached a peak, he suddenly heard voices from behind him. This distinguished guest, would you like to have a glass of wild rose tea? Turning his head around, the Crown Prince saw a young man clothed in the waiter uniform of Thousand Treasure Pavilion pushing a cart. On the dining cart was an assortment of various wine samples. In the general seating of the auction, there would often be dining carts serving the guests with various samples of beverages and food. The Crown Prince had always enjoyed tasting different varieties of wine, and Thousand Treasure Pavilion was in no lack of delicacies. If it were in more normal times, he would be more than willingly to taste a cup. But now he was in a bad mood. Completely not in the mood, he impatiently waved the attendant away. Not interested, get out of the way, with an irritated heart, his tone unusually cold. At this time, Manager Sun and the personal guards completed their conversation. So he once again returned to the auction. Ladies and gentlemen, just then, the seller of this profound armor set just sent a message saying, "You can also listen on." A round of exclamation immediately ensued from below. Lord! That great master is actually participating in this auction. How could this be? Where is he? Where is he? A fifth-tiered armament master's status is highly respected. I'm sure he would be on the 3rd floor. Is that so? Then which room do you think he is in? With the majority discussing the topic, even the Crown Prince also looked upstairs in hopes of catching a glimpse of that mysterious master. He had never come into contact with such a high-level armament master. If that master is really visiting the South U, then as the Crown Prince, he must take this opportunity to gain a friendly relationship with him. This would give him great benefits. As he was in the midst of his dream, the voice of the young waiter once again entered his ears. "Customer, why don't you try a cup? This is a newly opened bottle of white wild rose wine released this year. This is a commodity that cannot be drunk all year round. Furthermore, alcohol like this, only around 10 bottles will be produced each year. Apart from our Thousand Treasure Pavilion, it's unavailable anywhere else. Get lost. I said I have no interest." This time, the Crown Prince's reply was more impatient. However, the young waiter still did not leave. He directly opened the bottle to release a strong wine fragrance into the area. This attracted the attention of many surrounding guests. God! It's too fragrant. What wine is this? Good fragrance. Just smelling this scent makes me feel intoxicated. The waiter placed the bottle in front of the Crown Prince. "Customers, please smell. This fragrance is absolutely worthy of its price." This exceptionally delicious aroma stunned the Crown Prince for a moment. He felt that he was drunk already. Never before had he experienced such strong alcohol. At this point, quite a stir had been raised in this area. Many guests were attracted, inquiring about its price, as they wished to drink a cup. For a time, the area became very noisy. As the Crown Prince in a bad mood, this caused his head to start hurting. As he endured, he became more and more foul-mood to the point he could no longer endure. He couldn't help but loudly snap out, "Enough! Too noisy. If you want to buy it somewhere else." Frightened, the young waiter quickly put away the bottle, rushing his cart away. When the waiter left, the volume of the surroundings also turned softer. Massaging his temples, the Crown Prince couldn't wait to relax in the silence. Suddenly the voice of Manager Sun sounded from the stage. "Then, please start bidding. The starting price will be 0. The amount of each increase shall not be less than 10,000 silvers." Startled, the Crown Prince immediately sat up. Because of that damned waiter, he did not hear Manager Sun's previous sentences. Although he did not hear, he still felt that he was missing an important piece of information. Fortunately, he was able to participate in the auction. When he thought of this, he felt fortunate. As the starting point of the profound armor began from 0, the auction began with an instance of silence. For the treasures with very high monetary values, to start from 0 was a strategy often used. If one were to set a starting price, it would be subconsciously used as a price guide by guests. This may inform the guests of the approximate value of the item and result in the item never exceeding the base price by much. Generally, in such cases, products rarely sold for more than 10 times their actual value. But it would be vastly different if the base price started from 0. Due to a customer's immense desire to obtain the said item, they would psychologically offer higher prices. This would then easily surpass the original estimated value. You can also listen on. The Crown Prince was very knowledgeable towards this rule, so he wasn't in a hurry to bid. Instead, He spent all his concentration in waiting. Not long after, a timid voice echoed out from a remote corner within the general seating. 100,000. The Crown Prince barely controlled himself from laughing out. As expected from someone sitting in general admission, oblivious to the world. Knowing they would not be able to obtain it, they still offered a bis. Presumably to participate in the excitement. Even for an ordinary third-tiered lower-grade profound armor, one would still be hard-pressed to purchase a piece at 100,000 silvers. In spite of this, there were still people who dared to bid at such a value. Because there was a first bidder, a second and third bidder quickly followed. 300,000. 400,000. In the span of a few short breaths, a constant stream of voices rang. Rapidly, the price shot to 1,200,000. Once the price passed the 1 million threshold, the speed of those bidding distinctly dropped. Previously, the increase was never below 100 silvers, but with the current value, many turned more prudent in their increment increase. 1,210,000. 1,220,000. From that point, the price increase was in much smaller ranges. During this moment, a distinguished guest called out from the third floor, 1,500,000. Once this quote came out, the discussions in general admission immediately ceased. After Manager Sun's inciting, no more bids were called from the audience. Left without choice, he could only announce the next step. Well then. Since there are no more bidders, I will begin the countdown. 1,500,000 once. 1,500,000, expending quite some energy, the Crown Prince waited for the ordinary buyers to be eliminated before striking out with a high amount. But end result was not what he imagined. Not only did he miss the opportunity to bid, the final countdown had also begun. This price wasn't a bit too cheap. A single third leveled upper-grade profound armor part was already set around 1,500,000 silvers. While this item included all 13 pieces. Wouldn't that mean they would be purchasing the entire set for only 1,500,000? Internally, the Crown Prince was delighted. Could this mean that not a single guest present was capable of recognizing its proper value? Were they oblivious of the fact that the set's value was at least 5 times the amount? Even if it was still sold for 5 million silvers, it would still be considered extremely cheap for that profound armor set. And now it was to be sold for a mere 1,500,000 silvers? It seemed that he truly did not come in vain today. This was a huge discount that he will grab today. From the moment he smelt the fragrance of that ice wild rose wine, the Crown Prince felt a bit intoxicated and a constant dull ache in his head. This resulted in his inability to concentrate properly. Unfortunately, it also meant that he could not think straight, even though his heart felt that something was amiss. Furthermore, Manager Sun's countdown speed was very quick. 1,500,000 thrice. Watching as the bid about to be finalized, the Crown Prince was unable to consider anything. If he missed such a succulent convenience, he would absolutely regret it for the rest of his life. Hastily he shouted, 1,550,000. Although he was aware of this great deal that was as cheap as white cabbage, the Crown Prince did not bump the price up by a large amount. The previous guest hesitated for quite some time before calling out once again. 1,560,000. Really someone who had not experienced the world. To be able to purchase such a profound armor for only 1 million silvers, yet the increments which they increased by were so little. With a grand heroic spirit, the Crown Prince continued to bid. 1,600,000. 1,610,000. 1,700,000. Although the third level relapsed into a period of silence, they still followed with another bid in the end, 1,710,000. 1,800,000. 1,810,000 silvers. You can also listen on. Although the third floor's buyer continued to be hesitant, in the end they still bidded. Moreover, it was quite clear that they did not have enough funds. Each time they raised the price, it would only be by 10,000. When you compared the two, the calls made by the Crown Prince were far more grand-sounding. Every time he called out, he would add 100,000 silvers each time. To those listening to his calls, they couldn't help but become tongue-tied as they directed strange gazes towards him. Proudly the Crown Prince raised his head. In this moment, he felt that he had regained some of his lost ego earlier today. This also allowed him to show this bunch of country bumpkins how true wealthy people auctioned. With the backing of the royal treasury and the inside information of the royal household, his platform was on another level compared to those rich merchant. It was only Bai Ruo-chi who sat beside him that sensed something off. Her face was exceptionally pale. The prices the Crown Prince were calling out were gradually becoming more and more excessive. Could it be that, due to the noise earlier, he did not hear Manager Sun's words? The more Bai Ruo-chi pondered, the more she felt that this could truly be the case. Unfortunately, she had no method to stop the Crown Prince. 2,010,000. Listening to the dithering from the third level again, he raised his eyebrows and said, bidding so obnoxiously and hesitantly, "When will you end such a farce? Be straightforward and directly quote a value." "I will." Tugging on the Crown Prince's clothes as if her life depended on it, Bai Ruo-chi attempted to stop the Crown Prince's next words. Your Highness Crown Prince, wait a moment. I ask you to please wait a moment." At the moment, Bai Ruo-chi really wished she could shout out loudly. Manager Sun had just announced that this profound armor set was not sold by silver coins, but by gold coin. The current set price was 10 times the amount of the normal price. Calling out bids like these, you will definitely regret it later. But to see the profound armament he dreamed for about to land within his grasp and at such a bargain deal, it was like a meat pie falling from the heavens. The Crown Prince's eyes had long turned red from the excitement. He was unable to pay any attention to Bai Ruo-chi's words. All this while, he felt that this woman was constantly annoying him with her buzzing in attempts to gain his attention. Didn't they all say that the Bai family's second miss was cold and arrogant? Why does she lack the foresight and continue to act like a spoilt child at such a critical juncture? Wasn't this delaying a man's important business? Eyes filled with intolerance, he glared at her whilst forcibly shaking her off. Due to the sudden loss of support, Bai Ruo-chi was sent falling to the ground. The Crown Prince failed to give any concern except an impatient statement. "One price, 3 million. How is that? Do you dare follow?" After those words, he sent a provocative comment towards the guests on the third floor. This time, the third floor guests did not follow. 3 million once. 3 million twice. 3 million thrice. Bid successful. Beaming with smiles, Manager Sun confirmed this 3 times for declaring the successfully deal for the profound armor set. With the auction of all treasures, this year's annual auction had successfully come to a close. Once the Crown Prince heard Manager Sun's confirmation, unable to wait any longer, he stood up and rushed towards the inner courtyard of Thousand Treasure Pavilion. Clutching his purse, he was quite impatient to obtain the quality profound armament of his dreams. Once he obtained it, he definitely would be able to become an official disciple of the Heavenly Body sect. Furthermore, this was such a bargain purchase for this profound armament set. He really earned such a large profit today. When the Crown Prince stood, every guest turned their faces to give him expressions of shock and envy. It's no wonder he's the Crown Prince. Such a grand style. For such quality goods, it's only exceptional talents like His Highness the Crown Prince can match them. Really makes one envious. You can't compare between people. With those types of gazes, those discussions, the Crown Prince felt further delighted and elated. You can also listen on. Inside the third-floor private room. Moving her hands behind her back, Huang Yuli made a big stretch. It's finally finished. Tired to death. Little thing, are you tired? Sliding his arms from behind her, the man's 2 lithe and beautiful arms curled around her waist. This lord will help you massage a bit, get lost. Swatting away his presumptuous arms, she stood up and walked straight towards the doors. She heard the man call from behind her, "Little girl, where are you going?" She didn't stop her steps when she answered, going to the inner courtyard to find Manager Sun. Seeing her urgency, the man could tell she was not rushing over for her money, but to watch the good show the Crown Prince would put on. This two-faced little fox truly was motivated to see the world in chaos. Helplessly the man shook his head and said, "This lord still has some business to take care of, so take care of your accounts first. Afterwards, obediently wait in the inner courtyard for this lord to send you back. Aha! Raising her chin, Huang Yuli casually made an agreeing sound. She would obediently wait for him? This man was indulging in wishful thinking, right? Inner courtyard of Thousand Treasure Pavilion, VIP lounge front. Pleased with himself, the Crown Prince strutted to the entrance. Bai Ruoqi, on the other hand, held a face wrought with worry. Your Highness, Crown Prince. Wait a moment. Listening to her cries, the Crown Prince became very fidgety. Spinning around, he glared at her. Enough, don't shout. Can't you see that this one has serious business to attend to currently? Your things, can't you say it later? But this is really important. So anxious she was, Bai Ruoqi nearly burst into tears. Is it that important? More important than this one's profound armament? Bai Ruoqi nodded her head vigorously. The Crown Prince creased his eyebrows. What is it? Hurry up and speak. Lifting her head, Bai Ruoqi looked in all directions and said in a hushed voice, Your Highness Crown Prince, it would be better if we find somewhere more private to speak. Since the auction had just ended, there were many people walking about. Coupled with the Crown Prince's enormous bearing previously, many would glance towards him when they walked past. Clenching her teeth, Bai Ruoqi knew she could not remind the Crown Prince of such information in the close reach of so many eyes and ears. In case the Crown Prince was oblivious of the news and wished to go back on his debt, wouldn't it be heard by everyone nearby? This kind of information could only be secretly spoken. Unfortunately, the Crown Prince was wholly unable to understand her kind intentions. Quite impatient, he snapped, I have no time. Wait until this one has obtained the profound armament before you inform of your news. As he spoke, he was about to knock on the door. Frightened to death, Bai Ruoqi could not longer bother about the guests nearby. Opening her mouth, she desperately said, Your Highness Crown Prince. Just then, what? Just she began to speak, she had been interrupted by a young girl's voice. Suddenly spinning around, the white-clothed girl standing in front of her was her third sister. In that moment, Huang Yuli's gaze was traveling around the sorry figures of the male-female pair. The corners of her mouth raised in the faintest trace of a smile. Second sister, Your Royal Highness Crown Prince, are you also here to find manager son? Such a coincidence. But why don't you go in, dithering and whispering about? It wouldn't be because the bid amount was too high for you. So you were preparing to go back on your debt. The Crown Prince sneered, Bai Ruoli, you dare to slander this lord like this? How would this one not understand the auction's preset rules? To bid out a price yet renge on their debt is something only those lower-class people would do. Stopping pouring dirty water upon this one's head. You can also listen on. A cynical spark flashed through Huang Yuli's eyes while she beamed with smiled. Is that so? That's good then. So please quell your anger, Your Highness. I did not hold any intentions of slandering towards yourself. I was just in shock over the enormously high quotes. Casting her a glance, the Crown Prince couldn't help but feel an indescribable sense of superiority. Truly a country bumpkin who hasn't seen the world. 3 million was enough to frighten her. It is but 3 million. The Lord had long prepared it. Loftily, the Crown Prince said. Revealing a worshipping and a gasp of admiration, Huang Yuli continued to speak. No wonder you are the Crown Prince. So easily taking out 3 million. I have never seen such a high-leveled profound armament. Your Highness, when you go to receive your product, would it be possible for you to take me along and allow me to open my eyes to the world? With her portrayal of pleading displayed on her tender white face, she seemed all the more pitiful. As the Crown Prince's gaze once again traveled to her face, he was stunned again. Although the Bai family's third young miss could not be considered a beauty, she possessed an indescribable and particular aura. This caused him to uncontrollably glance at her. Unfortunately, he was constantly embarrassing himself in front of Bai Ruoli. This in turn caused him to become more and more angry, so now when she acted in such a pleasing and admiring manner, she was seen in a more pleasing light. Immediately happy, the Crown Prince instantly replied, You are but a young lady from a marquis manor. Furthermore, you have never cultivated, so naturally you would have never seen such top-quality profound armament. Today is an opportunity for you to experience it. Bai Ruoqi was so anxious that she jumped up and shouted, "Your Highness Crown Prince! How could allow for this little girl to accompany you? She was constantly going against us today. Clearly she doesn't hold any good intentions." Suffering such a large loss today, Bai Ruoqi's teeth became very itchy long ago. When she saw Bai Ruoli, she could help but hold the urge to rip her to shred. But the Crown Prince didn't seem to hold many grievances against her. He actually stared at her. Is that godforsaken girl this beautiful? So plain, so immature, and also so short and so flat. Was the Crown Prince's eyes blind? But what evoked the most frenzy was the Crown Prince's allowance for her to view the profound armament. How was this okay? And she had yet to say her important news. But with Bai Ruoli's presence, those words she was unable to say them. Watching the anxiety on Bai Ruoqi's face, Huang Yuli inwardly smiled. Suddenly remembering something, she exaggeratedly cried out an "ah" and said, "Meeting you here is far too good. I just thought of going to find you." "Find me?" Bai Ruoqi had yet to react. Sweetly, Huang Yuli smiled, "Yes. Second sister, in the auction earlier I am indebted to you for the bottle of spirit-raising pills. So please give me them. You are some very courteous. How would you bear to make me wait such a long time before giving me my goods? That's why I came to find you immediately after the auction ended. Let's hurry and go find Manager Sun for the goods. While you go pay, I will collect the goods." When she heard her words, Bai Ruoqi nearly fainted on the spot. Because all her attention and energy was focused on the Crown Prince's situation, he had completely neglected her own. The appearance of this godforsaken girl was coincidence, but because she was here to take her goods. Additionally, Huang Yuli did not bid for anything else in the auction. What she wanted to obtain was just that bottle of spirit-raising pills that had fought over. In front of everyone's eyes, she carried a debt of 131,000 silvers and even lost that bottle of spirit-raising pills. You, stretching out her trembling finger, Bai Ruoqi pointed to her, at a loss for words. "You can also listen on." Blinking her eyes, Huang Yuli asked, "Second sister, what is wrong with you? Where do you feel uncomfortable?" "Ari, there was just too many people in the auction today. It really was a bit stuffy. If this is the case, why don't we hurry to retrieve our things? Once we obtain the pills, you can quickly go home and rest." Fiercely Bai Ruoqi glared at her. "You still want the pills? Only through your crafty plots and planning did you manage to fool me. Towards these kinds of unfair bets, you cannot consider it valid." As Huang Yuli looked at her, the corners of her mouth hooked into not quite a smile. "What? Second sister means you wish to deny your debts? Deny? Shouldn't it be more like a cowardly person like wishes to swindle money? Second sister, how could you speak like this?" Clutching her chest, Huang Yuli showed a face of innocence, appearing like a persecuted person. "Back there, it was you who willingly decided to gamble. I didn't force you. How could you mention the idea of swindling?" When Bai Ruoqi recalled those times, she became more enraged. "Little slew, humph. Damned girl, don't think that you can swindle money by relying on some sly tricks and intelligence. Let me tell you this, you cannot achieve your wishes. In other words, second sister, you absolutely have no intention to uphold your side of the bet. Honor? Of course not. When did we even gamble? How come I don't have any recollection?" Clenching her teeth, Bai Ruoqi made a resolution. Even if she were to rip her face to shreds, she would deny until death. Do them part. It was an entire 131,000 R. Even if you sold her, she wouldn't be able to take that sum out. Even if she could take it out, she would still have to give the pills to this most detestable slut. Just thinking about it angered her to death. What could Bai Ruoli do if she decided to deny her debt? Could she snatch it from her just from her wastrel status? As if she could not think of any method to delay with her, Huang Yuli helplessly said, "Second sister, if you insist on denying it, then I cannot do anything." Pleased, Bai Ruoqi lifted her chin. It seemed that this damned girl was going to give up. Quite tactful of her. Right after she nodded her head, Huang Yuli spun around and jumped onto a platform within the parterre. Landing firmly, she shouted out loudly, "Everyone, friends and strangers walking by, please wait a moment. Is there anyone willing to be a witness for me?" This platform was right in the middle area between the inner and outer courtyards of Thousand Treasure Pavilion. An extremely attention-grabbing location. Just through action of jumping onto the platform, she had already captured many gazes. When the passers-by heard his shouts, many guests who were not in a hurry paused their steps. Turning their gazes towards the direction of the voice, many recognized the speaker immediately. "Oh, that young lady standing on the platform, isn't she the Bai family's third miss? Ari? Where? It's really her. As a respectable aristocratic lady, why is she frolicking and playing about in the parterre, whilst also shouting so loudly? What is she shouting about anyway?" With the conclusion of the auction, Huang Yuli's fame had risen within the circles of the various tycoons and aristocrats. Everyone possessed a gossiping heart. In an instant, a small group of people had formed. Huang Yuli immediately followed with the rubbing of her eyes and the appearance of grievance and pain. "Fellow kind-hearted friends, please help me seek justice. The events that had occurred earlier in the auction, I trust everyone had witnessed it. My second sister very clearly lost that bottle of pills to me, but she is proclaiming that no such a thing happened." Eyes red, tears immediately began to well in her watery clear eyes. It looked as they would spill her from eyes at any given moment. Clearly everyone saw, right? But she refuses to admit it and says I am speaking nonsense. This bullying is too much. With her original petite and weak outer look, her current performance caused her to appear 10 times more pitiful. You can also listen on. Everyone immediately began to sympathize with her once they saw her forlorn and pitiful expression. On top of this, all those people witnessed the dispute between the two earlier. Especially those who attended the auction earlier. At once, those who held a large sense of justice stepped up to testify. It can't be. How could second Miss Bai speak like this? What occurred then? I trust everyone saw. That's right. At the time, second Miss Bai personally agreed to the gamble in front of everyone. There are thousands of witnesses. Correct. You can't possibly wish to deny your debt because of the huge loss you suffered, right? But if you were to speak of it, to use 130,000 silvers to buy one bottle of spirit-raising pills is excessively high. Hey, what losses did she suffer? Clearly it was she who slandered her cousin first, resulting in the gamble between the two. So the money she is to pay is something she deserves, no? Right. Who knew that a stately young miss from Wu Wei Manor would renege on her debts? And to think I felt that she was both beautiful and powerful, person who was practically a fairy. But who knew that her character was this appalling? Face beat red, Bai Ruoqi wished that she could find somewhere to drill a hole to hide as she listened to their discussions. The importance she placed on her reputation was very great. Although she would act her usual arrogant and despotic ways in the manor, whenever she was outside Bai Ruoqi would take great care in leaving a kind and magnanimous, but who could predict Huang Yuli's numerous tricks played in the auction and her currently wailing to the crowd? Everyone now knew of her intentions of debt denial. If these rumors were to spread out, she would become the laughingstock of the entire capital. In her fit of fury, Bai Ruoqi nearly shattered her teeth from her clamping. Only through several long and deep breaths did she manage to quell a portion of her anger. Walking to Huang Yuli, she frowned slightly and said, "Third sister, how could you speak about me like this? You misunderstood, big sister. I don't have any intentions of denial." Her voice was unstable as she those words, because what she wanted to do at that very moment was to rip the young girl to shreds. But to keep her good public reputation facade, she must pretend to be the kind-hearted and open-minded elder sister. This angered her to the point of internal injuries. Casting her a glance, Huang Yuli replied to her, "Second sister, but you did not say this previously. You said, you don't remember conducting any kind of gamble with me." Bai Ruoqi's cheeks twitched ever so slightly. "Ayo third sister, you are such an excitable person. Back there, I misheard you. I thought you were talking about something else. So you were actually talking about the auctions affair? Why didn't you say so earlier? If you had told me earlier, why would I deny this debt? So it was actually like this. Bai Ruoqi vigorously nodded her head. That's correct, it was just like this. Hurry up and come back down, third sister. As a young girl, to lift up your skirts and climb to such a high is not that elegant. Using the simple excuse of misunderstanding to muddle past, it would subtly hint that Bai Ruo was looking for disharmony if rumors were to spread. Even taking her character as an excuse. Clearly she was shifting the blame all to Huang Yuli's head. Mouth hooking up into a sneer, Huang Yuli jumped down from the parterre platform. Since this is the case, it wouldn't be proper to delay things any longer. Let us hurry to retrieve those pills then. All her attention was focused in entering the inner courtyard. While the group of passers-by who were unwillingly to scatter just yet, followed her for more entertainment. Hastily, Bai Ruoqi attempted to stop her. Third sister, don't be so hasty. Why don't we wait for a while before taking those pills? Blinking her eyes in puzzlement, Huang Yuli asked, why? Why? Of course it's because she doesn't not have 131 silvers. But she could say it out. If it were to be revealed she did not have that much money, wouldn't it be equivalent to denying her debts? If this were to reach the ears of others, she could not make any other excuses. You can also listen on. Blocked by her barrage of words, Bai Ruoqi could not slip in any responses. Yet against expectations, Huang Yuli still managed to display a smile that was both pure and harmless. But in actuality all of this was executed purposely. Her belly was filled with evil schemes. Stiffly Bai Ruoqi reasoned, now, the auction has just concluded, so the amount of people searching Manager Sun must be numerous. If we were to go now, we would definitely have to line up. Line up. Second sister, I think you are overthinking this. Wasn't the inner courtyard empty? But you made a good point. We must make haste or we will have to line up. Let's go. Once she finished speaking, Huang Yuli began to speedily zoom away. Once again, Bai Ruoqi looked as if she had smashed herself with a stone. Left without any other choice, she could only helplessly follow in her footsteps. After Huang Yuli knocked on the door, a serving hand quickly opened the door and led her inside. Inside the room, there was only Manager Sunday. Opening the door and seeing the mountain, Huang Yuli didn't beat around the bush. Twisting his beard, Manager Sun replied, with pleasure. Then I shall ask second young Miss Bai to make the payment. This, quite obviously Bai Ruoqi was unable to take out this amount. Her face was both green and pale. After hesitating and dallying for quite some time, she squeezed out the following words. Manager Sun, I currently do not enough money on my person. Is it possible? Before she had the chance to finish her words, Huang Yuli instantly cut her off exaggeratedly. You didn't bring enough money, second sister. By the way you were calling out bids previously, it did not seem like you were lacking in funds. If you really called out bids without possessing sufficient funds, that would be true malicious price raising. Then you were the thief crying out thief, intentionally slandering me. Because you were lacking in money, you deliberately raised the stakes. You're viciously slandering. Bai Ruoqi nearly jumped up in frustration. Who did not know of Thousand Treasure Pavilion's strong measures towards those who bid with evil intentions? With this damned girl's hollering in front of Manager Sun, what would he conclude from this? Moreover, it wasn't herself who deliberately wished to raise the prices, but this wretched girl's planning. Unfortunately, Huang Yuli would not allow her to explain herself. Seemingly frightened by Bai Ruoqi, she retreated a few steps and began to mumble non-stop. Then how do you explain your insufficient funds? Thousand Treasure Pavilion's rules state that one must possess sufficient funds before placing a bid. Once you successfully obtain the item, you must immediately pay the price or else enter Thousand Treasure Pavilion's blacklist. As she stated this, Huang Yuli purposely added, Second sister, if you really don't have enough money, you should honestly tell Manager Sun. After all, money should be more important than reputation, right? In the worst-case scenario that news of this spreads out, it would better than losing the family fortune. Death glaring her, Bai Ruoqi was nearly angered to death. Huang Yuli's sarcastic and snide comments were truly said dexterously. Light but lethally struck at the weak points. If she were to truly enter Thousand Treasure Pavilion's blacklist, it would not only affect herself. This would also affect the residents of Wu Wei Manor. God knows how furious her daddy would become. As for the problem of paying the bill, she was unable to take out the full amount. She must go ask Bai Liu Jing for more money. But he would still be angered to death he were to learn that she used 131,000 silvers, yet failed to obtain even the dust particles of the pills. No matter what the options, she would not be able to live with face. No matter how erratically Bai Ruoqi's expressions changed, she did not mention anything about paying the bill. With this sort of conduct, even Manager Sun could not bear to watch any longer. At first, he did not wish to believe that Wu Wei Manor's young miss would lack the funds. But her current behavior hinted otherwise. You can also listen on. Coughing lightly, Manager Sun interrupted the two. Second Miss Bai, what is your current standing? There is quite a number of people waiting outside for their items. If possible, I ask that you pay as soon as possible and sort out your grudges at a later date. Bai Ruoqi hesitated at those words. In the moment where she could not retreat or advance, the silent crown prince spoke up. For this bottle of spirit-raising pills, just allow this one to pay. Once his words rung out, Bai Ruoqi instantly swiveled her gaze onto the crown prince's body. Her eyes brimming with gratitude. Your Highness Crown Prince, you really wish, huffing slightly, the Crown Prince nodded his head. After all, he had prepared 10 million silvers to compete for that profound armor set. In the end, he only used 3 million before winning. Such a worthwhile transaction it was, skyrocketing the Crown Prince to unbelievably high levels of blissfulness. Spending this trifling amount of 131,000 silvers for his future imperial concubine was but a small matter. As for the reason behind his delayed assistance, it was to gain the most amount of gratitude from Bai Ruoqi. He first allowed the events to play, allowing to become panicked before stepping out at the crucial moment. He executed this type of counting chickens before they hatched wonderfully. Seeing Bai Ruoqi nearly brought to tears, the Crown Prince felt quite pleased. Smilingly, Huang Yuli spoke up again. Your Royal Highness, you are too generous. Who would have thought you would treat second sister so well? Casually spending 100,000 or so without batting an eyelash. Arrogantly, the Crown Prince flaunted. Naturally. Does this one look like a stingy person? Even Bai Ruoqi could not have predicted the Crown Prince's generosity today. Leaping in joy, the gaze she gave Huang Yuli was filled with provocation. With the Crown Prince's valent charisma, it's no wonder he is the object of admiration for countless young ladies in South Yu. Third sister, I don't wish to intentionally speak ill of you, but your eyesight in men is just too poor. Clearly that man who brought you into the VIP room was extremely powerful, so why did you need to make this gamble for those spirit-raising pills with me? Bai Ruoqi assumed that Huang Yuli would become shamefully angry once she heard those words. After all, the Crown Prince was willing to throw away 100,000 silvers. While the man Huang Yuli attracted, who clearly was richer, did not come out to help her. Speaking bluntly, he was playing with her. What people hated most was the comparison between others. They would naturally despise, anger and hate. Contrary to expectation, Huang Yuli operated opposite to most people. Without the slight modulation in her expression, she actually looked towards the Crown Prince in admiration. No wonder you are the Crown Prince. Possessing status and power, and even your wealth is astounding. The Crown Prince is someone who can easily pull out 3 million to purchase a complete profound armor set. So what would a bottle of pills amount to? To be able to be with the Crown Prince, second sister has the envy of many. This well-executed bootlicking was right up the Crown Prince's road. He felt blissful. On the other hand, Bai Ruoqi's heart jumped. Interrupted by Huang Yuli earlier, she nearly forgot to. Does the Crown Prince know that he had just bid 3 million gold coins, not silver coins? The Crown Prince currently believed he had more than enough money, so spending money for her did not affect him. But if he were to carry such a large debt and then recall the amount he spent on the female beside him. Secretly, Bai Ruoqi's facial colors paled. Unfortunately, it was too late to inform him. Straightforwardly, the Crown Prince threw out a black card and said, "Deduct the pill's money from this card. As for the profound armor this one just purchased, also deduct it from here too. But I must first inspect the treasure before paying. You can also listen on." Manager Sun said, "That is to be expected. I invite your Royal Highness to the storeroom for inspection." As Manager Sun led the way, the Crown Prince could not hide his joy. So he pulled out a fan to disguise it, following leisurely behind. Heart racing with panic, Bai Ruoqi ran to catch up. But no matter what, she could not think of a way to inform him. And what made her heart most anxious was the fact that Huang Yuli had followed them. "Why are you following us?" Bai Ruoqi fiercely glared at her. Huang Yuli returned her glare with a smile. "Of course I am here to collect my pills. It has already been paid, so why would I not retrieve it? Wouldn't that be throwing money into water?" Those silvers were already thrown into the water. Once again, Bai Ruoqi nearly fainted from anger. Her eyes filled with despise. Bai Ruoqi hissed to her, "Let me tell you this. Don't be happy too early, Bai Ruoli. Did you think that you would be able to cultivate just by obtaining that bottle of spirit-raising pills? Haha, that may not be the case. Even if they are effective, you will be most of first-grade talent. Never to break past the defensive profound realm. No matter what you do, you are still trash. For a cultivational wastrel, even with the assistance of various medicinal pills, they would forever be stuck at the Qi profound realm. They would never be able to become an expert. At most they would merely possess a healthier and longer lifespan than normal." Although Bai Ruoqi's words were harsh, they were the truth. Contrary to her expectations, Huang Yuli was not heartbroken or affected in the slightest. In fact, she was smiled with amusement. "Who informed you that I would be the one to eat those spirit-raising pills?" Though stunned, Bai Ruoqi immediately recovered herself. "Looks like you know yourself. No matter how many pills you take, they would all be useless. You are just wasting those treasures. Since you are making the imitative to return those pills to me, I shall be the greater person and forgive you." "Stop, stop, stop." Huang Yuli raised a hand. "Second sister, aren't you just a bit too full of yourself? Did I say that intend to give them to you? Then why did you say you did not intend to take them?" Giving her a condescending look, Huang Yuli answered, "I can choose not to eat them but sell them for money instead." Sell for money? Bai Ruoqi opened her eyes wide in shock. If Huang Yuli really planned and sold those pills, then she would truly become a laughingstock. Seeing her utter gaze of loathing, Huang Yuli naturally would smile. Sell them for money? Of course that would be impossible. Second sister, don't be so anxious. Inwardly, Bai Ruoqi loosed a sigh of relief while maintaining that look of despise. Disdainfully she said, "Humph, to be expected from someone like you. You planned to use such a precious resource as a method of earning money? What waste to be in your possession. Only true Qi profound realm practitioners would be able to absorb and display its full effect." "That's right, I also feel this way." Huang Yuli smirked lightly. "That's why I plan to bring the pills back with me. So the servants in my back courtyard can take them instead." "What? My personal maid, Cai Wei, you know her right, second sister? Following me for such a long time and suffering so many beatings from you and fourth sister. So pitiful. When I return, I plan to give her 3 spirit-raising pills as compensation. Also my guard, that sweeper, that gardener, they can't be left out. Why don't I bestow them all a piece as a reward and let them have a taste?" Mouth gaping and frozen in speechlessness, Bai Ruoqi did not know what to say. What did she think spirit-raising pills were? Candy. Lining up to eat. One for you, one for me. Everyone to have a taste. You can also listen on. Those were precious and hard to obtain second-level upper-grade product. How many martial practitioners would place their lives on the line but still fail to even obtain a single pill? Yet she actually planned to give them to those servants. She didn't hear incorrectly, right? Momentarily stunned, Bai Ruo-chi regained herself and snorted coldly. Don't think of tricking me anymore. Speaking all for the sake of angering me, right? Do you think I'm an idiot? Will you truly feed those pills to a bunch of servants? Hey, you, telling you the truth but refusing to believe me. Aren't you forcing me to lie? These years, just trying to speak the truth, it's just too hard. Extremely aggrieved, Huang Yuli helplessly shook her head and sighed. The little phoenix who had been hiding in her sleeves silently nearly fell out again. Lord, this female devil is becoming more and more twisted. For Bai Ruo-chi to continue remaining sane was already nothing short of a miracle. Truly deserving the title of South Yu's #1 female genius. Her mental prowess was truly amazing. Your Highness Crown Prince, 2 young Miss Bais, I invite you inside. At that moment, Manager Sun's voice sounded alerting them they had arrived at the storeroom. Glaring at Huang Yuli intensely, Bai Ruo-chi strutted inside. Mouth curving in amusement, Huang Yuli leisurely entered. When she entered, Manager Sun had already taken out the spirit-raising pills. This bottle of spirit-raising pills has already been identified and confirmed by the Alchemy Guild. Its quality is very good. I ask you to take possession of it now. Just as Bai Ruo-chi wished to take it herself, Huang Yuli's hand had flashed by and received the bottle. You. Lowering her head to examine it, Huang Yuli nodded her head in satisfaction. Not bad, not bad. Its quality can be considered high. These silvers were not spent in vain. Deduct the money then. That tone of hers seemed like she was the one who made the payment. Clenching her teeth, Bai Ruo-chi could only watch as Manager Sun deduct the payment from the Crown Prince's black card. Once completed, he smiled and said, I am indebted to 3rd young Miss Bai's patronage. For such guests who are generous like yourself, it is truly rare. In the future I ask that you continue to grace our shop. Huang Yuli chuckled in response. As long as your products are good, money will not be an issue. Stifled and having the urge to vomit, Bai Ruo-chi wailed over her spirit-raising pills. She couldn't even touch the bottle's exterior before the money was just gone. What made her even more furious was the manner in which Manager Sun treated that cheap slut. It was not her own money that she was spending, so of course she would be generous. If it were her, she would be even more generous. In slow calculated steps, Huang Yuli returned to the sides of the Bai Ruo-chi and the Crown Prince. Clutching the bottle, she beamed at them. Second sister, Crown Prince, I really thank you both today. The Crown Prince looked at her unenthused and nodded his head slightly. On the other hand, Bai Ruo-chi nearly exploded. Third sister, you have already obtained your pills, so why are you not leaving? Huang Yuli acted surprised. Didn't the Crown Prince say he wished to inspect the profound armor? And he clearly agreed to allow me to watch and earn some worldly experiences, right? Is he going back on his word? You also wish to view the Crown Prince's possessions? Impatient, the Crown Prince waved his hand to interrupt the two's conversation. Enough quarreling. If they wish to watch, then let them watch. In the meantime, Manager Sun commanded a few servants to carry all 13 chests out. Opening all the chests, a cyan-glowing set of armor appeared within their eyes. Indeed, it is a peak-quality profound armor. The Crown Prince's face lit up in delight. Stepping forward, he bent down to begin his examination. You can also listen on. This profound armor set was painstakingly crafted by Huang Yuli. Although its exterior was not eye-catching, the effects were there. She was someone who cared more for the results, rather than the look. The old merchant manager Sun had to even request her to engrave a few more useless but eye-pleasing carvings and symbols. In fact, the more decorative battle formations and carvings on the profound armor, the more profound chi it would exhaust long-term. Towards a more experienced appraiser, this would result in a lowered evaluation of the product. Such methods were mostly used to scam laymen. What a misfortune for the Crown Prince to be a wealthy layman. The more he looked at the glowing profound armor, the more the Crown Prince liked it. Unable to control his smile, he waved his hand in appreciation. Good. It's really too good. Manager Sun, your 1,000 treasure pavilion truly is good. To be able to obtain such a wonderful profound armor, deserving of being South Yu's best merchant hall, you overpraise is your highness. This remark made Manager Sun extremely happy. Huang Yu Li was also very happy. Holding her chin, she examined her work. If she were to bring out a product, it must be the best. Although this crown prince was a bit trashy, he still had good eyesight. That being the case, she would allow him a few days of rest, to collect some more money before scamming him again. Only Bai Ruo Chi's face was ugly looking. But with the current events, no one paid her any attention. Once the crown prince had completed his excited inspection, with the assistance of Manager Sun, he wore the armor for a test. Activating the armor's supplementary profound skill, he smashed the strength testing stone with one hit. This is just too powerful. By relying on this profound armor alone, this prince can barely manage to fight on par with a spirit profound realm practitioner. The crown prince widely beamed. Taking of the profound armor, he waved his hand and said, "It's fine. There are no problems. You can deduct the sum. Also have some people wrap it all up. This prince will personally bring people over to retrieve it later." Grinning widely, Manager Sun replied to him, "Then I ask your Royal Highness to pay your bill then." The crown prince was puzzled. "Hasn't this one already given you the black card?" Manager Sun immediately replied, "That's correct, but your black card only has 10 million silvers. Your Royal Highness, through what methods are you planning to defer the remainder of the sum? We can provide the—" "Wait a moment." Eyebrows frowning, the crown prince interrupted his words, "You are saying that 10 million is not enough?" Manager Sun nodded his head in confirmation. "Your Royal Highness, you are also a esteemed VIP customer of Thousand Treasure Pavilion. So you should know that this shop always receives the full amount before handing the goods over. This prince knows. But this prince's 10 million is more than enough to pay the due amount. This profound armor is only 3 million. Even if you include that bottle of spirit-raising pills, there should still be more than enough." This time, it was Manager Sun's turn to be puzzled. Looking to the left, looking to the right, Manager Sun then cautiously and carefully asked, "Your Royal Highness, did you make a mistake somewhere? This profound armor is calculated through gold. So you did not buy it through 3 million silver coins, but 3 million gold coins." "What? What did you say?" The crown prince did dare to believe his ears. 3 million gold. This was 3 million gold. Although this profound armor set was expensive, it should be no higher than 10 million silver. The current settled price was more than 3 times of what he expected. Even if he disregarded whether or not it was worth the price, he would still not be able to take out 3 million. As the crown prince stared at Manager Sun, his gaze became more and more gloomy. /N You can also listen on. How could this be? Calculated through gold coins? How does this prince not know? Your shop had not said this before. Are you intentionally scamming this prince? Manager Sun was merely an ordinary Qi profound realm practitioner. When he received such a formidable glare from such an expert, he could feel cold sweat form on his back. If it were possible, Manager Sun did wish to offend the crown prince. But when he recalled his powerful and mysterious boss instructions, he must summon all courage within him to contend with the crown prince. Your Royal Highness, you are number 1 in South Yu, an existence above tens of thousands. How could we, Thousand Treasure Pavilion, who was born and survives in South Yu, dare to scam you? His face still unsightly, the crown prince questioned, then explain how did this situation? Previously, before the auctioning of these profound armaments began, that mysterious armament master had sent over someone to ask us in changing the calculation method from silver to gold. Hence our sudden and abrupt change. What? How could this be? This prince did not hear of this. You dare to fool this prince? As the crown prince ink-black eyebrows furrowed together, his face was at the peak of gloominess. Hastily, Manager Sun answered him. At that time, I had announced several times to the audience below. Once I confirmed the guests had heard this, did I dare start the auction? Your Royal Highness, are you telling me that you did not hear this? He truly did not hear this. But Manager Sun had said this in such a solemn tone that it could not possibly be fake. Additionally, When those people had called out bids, it was done very conservatively. Clearly not randomly. Those people must have heard Manager Sun's words. Drowned in sweat, the Crown Prince attempted to recall the memories from that time. Then his heart clenched in alarm. That waiter. At the times he had thought it was a bit strange. Normally, once the auction began, apart from guests, there should not be anyone else who was able to enter the auction hall. Yet that waiter appeared at that moment. At the time, he was too impatient to think too deeply. But now when he recalled it, that occurrence was much too strange. Also that bottle of wine, that waiter insisted to open that bottle. And once it was opened and he smelled its aroma, he was unable to hear or recall the events around him. This clearly indicated a conspiracy. The more the Crown Prince analyzed it, the more ugly his face turned. As he unconsciously fisted his hand together, the surrounding profound chi seemed to be affected by the influx of this emotions. With dramatic effects, it began to fluctuate around him. Unknowingly, both Manager Sun and Bai Ruo Qi retreated a few steps in fear of an attack from the fluctuations. Only Huang Yu Li remained seated next to one of the 13 armament chests. With great relish, she watched the scene unfold before her. Preposterous. Unable to contain his anger any longer, the Crown Prince explosively punched towards a nearby pillar. A defensive profound realm practitioner's strike can reach a few thousand jin in strength. As a result, the entire room shook from the aftershock. Crackle, rattle. Due to the shaking from the punch, bottles of pills spilled down from a cupboard. Smashing onto the floor, various pills rolled around on. Local tyrant, too wasteful. In a hushed voice, Huang Yu Li garrulously mumbled. In a stern voice, the Crown Prince spoke. Your 1,000-treasure pavilion has great courage. Dare to play with this prince like so. Frightened by this sudden outburst, Manager Sun kneeled down immediately. Your Royal Highness, I ask you to quell your anger. This lowly one dare not. The situation at the time was witnessed by everyone attending. This shop has always been fair and just. We have never cheated a single one of our customers. I ask your Royal Highness Crown Prince to distinguish the truth. You can also listen on. Dare to quibble. Clearly it was you who ordered someone to appear before the auction to purposely open that bottle wine, resulting in this prince's inability to hear your words and astronomical bid. For the sake of earning more commission, you dared to pull such underhand method. Do you think that this prince is such a good-tempered person to be cheated by you like this? With those accusatory words dropping, the Crown Prince's pressure had reached its peak. Manager Sun was merely a merchant, so there was no possibility of him experiencing such pressure before. His back drenched with cold sweat, he completely collapsed into the ground. We are certain we have not scammed you. The bottle of wine you speak of, this lowly really has no knowledge of. It has nothing to do with 1,000-treasure pavilion. The Crown Prince coldly sneered. You say you do know of the events that occurred in your 1,000-treasure pavilion's territory. Did you think this prince is an idiot? Crown Prince, quell your anger. Crown Prince, quell your anger. This lowly one has been wrongly accused. The Crown Prince completely ignored his explanations and began to talk frostily. Quell my anger. That won't do. I order people to come and carry these profound armaments away for this prince. Consider this compensation for this prince. In addition to this, 10 days later, have someone deliver 3 million gold over to the royal palace. Then this affair can be forgotten, otherwise, mate. The Crown Prince's subordinates had been waiting for him at the entrance. When they heard his commands, they immediately entered and began to carry the chests away. Hurriedly, Manager Sun stood up in an attempt to stop them. You can't. We cannot do it like this. These are profound armaments worth millions of gold. Your Royal Highness Crown Prince, you cannot rob those treasures like so. Aryo. As Manager Sun attempted to block the entrance, he was effortlessly kicked to the side by the Crown Prince's imperial bodyguard. He was unable to stand up. It was chaos outside of the storeroom. Watching from the side, Huang Yu Li continuously shook her head. 1,000-treasure pavilion really was a small business in a small country. Facing the Crown Prince's attitude, Manager Sun was frightened to the extremes. It was just far too embarrassing. There were numerous businesses within Tianling continent who held profound backgrounds. And they also possessed great power. Not to mention the Crown Prince, even if it were a 9th-layer pinnacle practitioner at the Emperor Profound Realm, they would not dare to act arrogantly in their presence. They all needed to obediently follow the set rules. If they dared to act like this, they would definitely be unable to bring the food home to eat. Huang Yuli could only shake her head in disappointment. She assumed that Manager Sun could make the Crown Prince obediently pay the sum without her assistance. Jumping down from the chest, she dusted of any dirt on her skirt and lightly spoke out. "Your Royal Highness." She had only spoken a few words, before the weather suddenly changed. Bang! 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 They heard a few loud sounds before a few people were knocked to the ground. They were like dead dogs, not moving a muscle. Looking closely, you would see they were the Crown Prince's imperial bodyguards who had just exited the storeroom. Knocked unconscious, they were sent flying back inside. Those still inside the storeroom were shocked by what they saw. A group of black-clothed guards silently entered. By their attitudes, they seemed to have surrounded the storeroom. You people." The Crown Prince subconsciously took a step back. He was someone who had experienced the world. So a single glance told him these people were not ordinary. These guards, each and every single one possessed superior auras, possessing unfathomably deep cultivations. Not only this, they all held cold and extreme killing intents. This kind of grandeur could only be emitted by those who had experienced countless bloody battles. Using years to hone themselves on the battlefield before reaching such a height. You can also listen on. Huang Yuli also raised her eyebrows. For she had already recognized the leader of the group. He was Mo Sai, the subordinate of Thousand Treasure Pavilion's owner. He came with impeccable timing. When Huang Yuli thought of their supporting master, her lips subconsciously rose into a curve. She, herself, did not notice this. Each and every guard stood quietly in position at the entrance. They did not make any further movements or sounds. But this eerie silence caused the others to feel an unnatural chill. Silently Mo Sai walked inside, his gaze naturally landed on Manager Sun. "You may go rest." Following his words, the trembling Manager Sun was escorted to a chair in the side of the room. After his was settled, Mo Sai's gaze turned to the Crown Prince. His tone frigid. "Your Highness, daring to create a disturbance in our Thousand Treasure Pavilion. You are the first." Mo Sai was at the 4th stage, the Dan Profound Realm. Due to the large disparity between their cultivations, it took all of the Crown Prince's willpower to not retreat. His legs had already softened from fright. So you are the owner of Thousand Treasure Pavilion?" The Crown Prince asked with some reservations. Mo Sai did not speak but returned the question with an icy gaze. Although the Crown Prince could not bear such a tremendous pressure, he still forced himself to speak out. "Great owner, this prince does not wish to cause such a ruckus in Thousand Treasure Pavilion. But it was Manager Sun who took this too far. Originally, the Crown Prince planned on accusing Thousand Treasure Pavilion of misconduct. But as soon as he saw Mo Sai's awe-inspiring aura, he immediately shifted his intentions. He pinned all blame on Manager Sun's head. Hurriedly he continued to speak. In hopes of selling the profound armament for a higher price, Manager Sun actually ordered a waiter to purposely disturb this prince. Resulting in this prince's astronomical figure. This kind of thing, were to spread out, it would ruin Thousand Treasure Pavilion's reputation. You should give this prince a proper explanation, right? Just previously, the Crown Prince had used an imposing tone to speak. But now, he was using a negotiative tone to gain a bit of justice. Mo Sai replied, "How do you wish for us to explain? Since this is an issue relating to an auction bid, the bid can no longer be valid. As for this profound armor set, this prince will purchase it for 10 million silvers. Then this problem can be overlooked and forgotten." Originally the Crown Prince had planned to use the reasoning of Thousand Treasure Pavilion abusing its power to present to him an optimal result. With that in mind, he would be able to openly snatch a set of profound armor home. But with the situation turning to such a degree, he no longer dared to make such a request. Taking any advantages was no longer possible. At that very moment, all the Crown Prince wished to do was to minimize his losses as much as possible. That being said, Mosai coldly laughed in response. Your Highness, there are two things you are mistaken in. At a loss, the Crown Prince stared at Mosai. A dreadful sense of unease rising within. Mosai immediately followed with, the first mistake, the owner of Thousand Treasure Pavilion is my family's master. I am merely a bodyguard. Your Highness, you have recognized the wrong person. What? The Crown Prince cried out in surprise. When he saw Mosai's cultivation and aura, it was one that clearly belonged to an expert. His pressure easily suppressing the weak. Because of this, he unknowingly assumed Mosai to be the owner of Thousand Treasure Pavilion. While in reality, such a powerful cultivator was merely a bodyguard. Then the master that he spoke of, what universally shocking person would he be? You can also listen on. At that point, the Crown Prince truly began to feel fear. Thousand Treasure Pavilion's power had reached such a frightening degree. They were so strong that if they wished to squash him, it would be as simple as squashing an ant. But how could this be? Why would such a large power settle in such a small country like Southview? And host an auction here? Out of all possibilities, the Crown Prince would not guess that the reason behind the purchase for that mysterious expert did it all to simply gain the affections of his beloved little fox. Mosai continued to speak expressionlessly. Secondly, what right do you have to speak fairness with Thousand Treasure Pavilion? You say we are scamming you. Where is the evidence? Who can hold witness for you? This, the Crown Prince was unable to reply. If it were in more normal situations, he would have definitely replied with this prince's words are evidence. But in the face of such a dominating expert, he did not have the courage to be so daring. Furthermore, with Manager Sun's earlier words of confirming the crowd had heard his words, he was unable to find any witness. Wait, there was one person. The Crown Prince suddenly turned around. His line of sight falling onto by Ruo Chi's body. Second young Miss Bai can bear witness for this prince. During their exchange, Bai Ruo Chi constantly withdrew her body and presence in order to not be noticed. She did not expect the Crown Prince to still call her out after so much expended effort. Cold sweat ran down her forehead and pale face. Mosai coldly said, "Oh, second young Miss Bai, you can be a witness. What kind of evidence do you have to prove that Thousand Treasure Pavilion scammed you?" Bai Ruo Chi glanced at the Crown Prince, then at Mosai. Both men returned her glances with icy ones. They focused their attention all to her, causing her to feel panicked and frightened. She really wished she could vanish at that instant. If she were to speak out for the Crown Prince, those fiend-like bodyguards might lash out at her. With such strength, they would be able to completely disregard her status as some young lady from a marquis household. Who knows what they will do to her? But if she did not help the Crown Prince would not let her and Wu Wei manor off. This was what you call being unable to advance or retreat. The longer Bai Ruo Chi refused to speak, the colder the Crown Prince's gaze became. Mosai sorrowfully spoke, "Your Highness, looks like this lady companion cannot bear witness to your claims. Your claims of scam towards this shop, and your disturbance-raising actions that affected the reputation of this shop. Not to mention your intentions to go back on your debt in order to snatch away the good. For such actions, this shop and the Chamber of Commerce shall not deal with this leniently. Today's affairs cannot end like this." His gaze lifeless, the Crown Prince was devoid of any fighting spirit. Bai Ruo Chi's refusal to speak only served to confirm that he was framing Thousand Treasure Pavilion. Not only was he speaking conceited nonsense, he was also caught in the act of snatching away treasures today. It was due a moment's mistake. He did not properly investigate Thousand Treasure Pavilion's powerful background first. Head lowered, the Crown Prince bowed slightly and said in a respectful tone, "This great lord is, I have eyes but failed to see Mount Tai. I have angered your family's master. I ask you to please placate your anger. If there is anything I can do, please feel free to speak out. I will do my utmost to compensate you." In the face of such power, the Crown Prince wholeheartedly acknowledged his defeat. The corners of Huang Yu Li rose up. This show was quite enjoyable to watch, she thought. And the conclusion was just how she imagined it to be. You can also listen on. In regards to the issue between the Crown Prince and Thousand Treasure Pavilion, it was not a matter of who was right and who was wrong, but who was more powerful. If the Crown Prince was the stronger party, no matter how unwillingly Thousand Treasure Pavilion would be, they could only admit defeat. Even if that meant having those treasures taken away. But the current conclusion was Thousand Treasure Pavilion who held the upper hand. The Crown Prince could only suffer the loss. Internally, the Crown Prince was very unresigned. But in the face of such an overwhelming power, he could only bow his head. There was no alternate path to take. With the power of the Thousand Treasure Pavilion's owner, annihilating South U would be as simple as raising a hand. It was barely acceptable for himself to be humiliated. But if he were to implicate the royal family as well, he would become a person condemned through the ages. He could only pray for the magnanimity of Thousand Treasure Pavilion's owner now, praying that he would not be too excessive in his demands. Emotionlessly, Mosai said, "My master has asked me to pass on a word. As the owner of Thousand Treasure Pavilion, this is the first time he has met someone daring enough to cause such a ruckus. Crown Prince, you are the first. So if things were to be resolved this easily, then we would no longer be able to conduct business in the future. On the face of South U's royal family, as long as the Crown Prince is willingly to pay the reparations, then major issues can become small ones." Yes, yes, yes. The Crown Prince hastily nodded his head in agreement. Wiping the cold sweat on his forehead, the Crown Prince cautiously asked, "This should be. It should be. May I ask how much do I have to pay?" 10 million. The Crown Prince let out a loud gasp. He felt a large stone fall heavily in his heart. 10 million, although it was a large lion's bite at him, it was still a sum within his boundaries. If he were able to pass this affair with that much silvers, then it was still worthwhile. Gold. Mosai indifferently opened his mouth to finish his previous statement. What? The Crown Prince's eyes bulged wide open. Mosai coldly said, 10 million gold. In 10 days' time, deliver it to Thousand Treasure Pavilion without a single gold less. Otherwise don't blame our family's master of being ruthless. 10 million, gold? The Crown Prince's voice began to shake and waver. Distinguished sir, it is not that I am unwillingly. But, 10 million gold, is it not a bit too much? I truly cannot take out so much. Devoid of any emotions, Mosai replied, Your Highness Crown Prince, please do not misunderstand. Currently it is you who does not wish for this affair to become bigger. Whether or not you can take out that much, it not with the considerations of my master. This concludes the conditions of my master. Currently you have two choices, comply with my master's demands and quietly pay your debt. Or, you can suffer the wrath of my master. Startled, the Crown Prince shivered. He did not dare to say a single word further. Yes, yes, yes. I will definitely complete it. He wished he could cry, but the Crown Prince had no tears to cry. In comparison to those worldly things, of course it was his own life that was more important than South U's treasury. He was not someone who failed to accept favors bestowed them, but where should he take this sum out from? He himself did not possess that much. If he wished to repay this debt, he must take out all the taxes saved within the royal treasury these years, in order to fill up that black hole. But how is he going to explain to his royal father that he had unintentionally offended such a formidable and frightening existence? If this news were to travel to the ears of his royal family, his own position of Crown Prince would be uncertain. Mosai continued in his cold tone, Since you understand this, I ask the Crown Prince to leave. But the Crown Prince did not move. Hesitating for a long time, his gaze traveled to Mosai and then to the 13 chests behind him. Within those chests were the set pieces of his profound armor set. You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.